And in fact, I'm one of those who was very critical of the Moi administration. But one greatest act of statesmanship that is corroborated by both President William Ruto and former head of public service, Sally Koskei, is that when everybody was waiting for Moi to do the magic, the late President Moi asked Uhuru Kenyatta to concede, which led to the concession at Serena. We need to have a culture of conceding elections. Whether we are the country, in terms of margins of victory, it is not specified. The only constitutional threshold that is required is 50 plus 1 vote and 25% in 24 counties. Americans vote that way every successive elections. Ghanaian presidents win with margins of 50,000 or 25,000. But we have radicalized and weaponized some of our base of supporters to constantly deny, to accept victory by always blaming some top technology, some software, some server. Yet it is some of it is in open public gallery for it to be said. The server or the portal was simply a reflection of the server. We have since been informed by our Supreme Court team that the Supreme Court actually, in 2022, the day after that, we said all elections were contested, and all of them read Raila Odinga and others versus, so the contestation has been from one center. But I wanted to ask, I don't know whether you were part of the Supreme Court process of the 2022 elections. Actually, an audit of the server was actually, and we will present it in the deliberations of this committee, was actually ordered by the Supreme Court. Both parties to the suit were actually asked to come. They were taken to those places. Others, even from ODM, had their notes and they wrote, and they all signed onto that report, upon which I'm told it is what informed part of the decision of the Supreme Court. But I totally agree with this proposal that we indeed need to make it law that servers be opened immediately after an election so that we conclude these elections conclusively. We do not need to repeat ourselves constantly that after every election we are putting out some IBC people out of work. We are victimizing and vilifying Kenyans. We are, in the lead up to the elections, we're intimidating them. We are kidnapping them. We are murdering them. And those are some of the things we need to look into. But the final thing I wanted to ask, election cannot be the work of only political parties and politicians. I think all these Kenyans here, including the media, those who work in other sectors, are interested in the outcome of these elections. In fact, the politicians are a very insignificant part of the entire electoral process. But I've had Senator Okongo Mkeni ask about it. Are you aware of the Mozambican model, where the commission is appointed on account of party strength? And it is not usually cited as a best practice because it is in the interest of those commissioners in terms of survival to ensure that the party that nominated them continues to win. And that whole idea is also manifest, unfortunately, in the Cherera Four, who, in our view, are appointed in very close to the elections, who I think had a common plan, who now continue to peddle a common theory that is fairly tired about them not having been called into a commission meeting to decide whether to subvert or affirm the popular will of the Kenyan people. So I wanted you to speak to the partiality of these people who are nominated by political parties, who, in my estimation, are more prone to subvert an election than to affirm it. I think those are my. I totally agree with the strengthening of the Senate. It's not only strengthening of the Senate. We must take the courage and deal with this issue once and for all. This is a fallacy. Senate must be the upper house of Parliament.
Thank you.
Senate, just a minute, must be the upper house of Parliament. How do you get elected in 6 constituencies, 12 constituencies, and then you are told these two houses sit side by side? It's not practical, it's not logical.
Okay, thank you. Eugene?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Chair,
Before Eugene, sit like a point of order or something.
yeah, sort of. But first, let me say my apologies. I came from the Council of
You don't need
Governors. We had elections of the office bearers for the Council of Governors. But Chair, I'm just concerned that we, the committee, are taking too long to seek clarifications. Chair, you took about 15 minutes. Hassan has taken 15 minutes. There's a whole list of people. So just out of concern, can we go? No,
Thank you.
You took long. Could we at least take 2-3 minutes?
That point is taken. Yeah. Cicely, we hear you.
Yeah.
Please, Eugene.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. The gentleman before us happens to be my namesake. The only thing I blame him for is I think he made the name Amos more popular than Eugene, but his name is actually Amos Eugene. And one thing apart from sharing a name with him is that we share love for Shakespeare. This gentleman is my late brother, true Shakespearean. And your presentation really touches one of Shakespeare's famous lines, to be or not to be, in Hamlet.
Indeed, there's a tide in the affairs of men. This is a tide. You don't catch it at its height.
Yeah.
This country could go hayway. Anyway, continue. Just
Yes. So, the elephant in the room, and I'm very happy that you've touched on the critical issues. We have about 5 issues. We have 25 days to go. And you are not just speaking to us, you're making recommendations in terms of way forward, and I'm hoping our Secretariat is capturing this. And on each issue, you have left us with a clear recommendation. One of those is the issue of to be opened or not to be opened. To be or not to be opened, the service. That has been a hot political potato. But from what you have said today, I think we can pick a very clear recommendation that this matter should be a matter of course after the elections. Servers should be opened in the interest of transparency and accountability, and also to boost public confidence in our electoral processes, equipment, and everything. So it should not even be an issue that should be left for debate. What I wanted to ask, so that we can tap into your wisdom, is the IBC appeared before us, and we're looking at Article 88. So when you look at Article 88, H, 4H, it's very clear that it is the duty of IEBC, that is on page 40 of our Constitution, at the top, the first line, H. It's actually the cardinal duty of IEBC to ensure facilitation of, first of all, observation, and this they have been doing. They have been observers, facilitated, external observers, monitoring. I don't know if you've gotten it. 88, 4H. 88? 4H. 4. Yeah, in my copy, it's on page 40. The first sentence at the top.
Oh, mine is
4H.
no, I came with it. Oh my goodness.
Are you looking at 88?
No, I came with the wrong.
Maybe the Secretariat can help you with the latest copy. But basically, there are 3 things that IEBC is supposed to do to facilitate observation, and observers have been facilitated. To facilitate monitoring, that has been done externally. And from what you're proposing, the issue is evaluation of elections, where IBC has been doing it, by themselves, and we had asked them whether this is not just self-appraisal. If we were to go by that provision of Article 88 4H in terms of evaluation of the elections, and to take your recommendation, and there are those who came before you who also recommended amendment so that it is provided in our law that there will be that audit done immediately after elections, servers opened automatically. Would that fall within your recommendation? And that you can make in your further written submissions. You can look at the law, and it will help this committee in terms of those recommendations. Then the other issue that you have made a very clear recommendation on, and I hope our Secretariat has captured it. So the issue of counties, that's a very sensitive issue. You were the AG, I think when we had the Akiwomi report, you did make your advice to that commission, and the tribal clashes of 92, 97, and whatever happened. So in terms of adding or subtracting, to have or not to have more counties, it's another hot political potato, and we are happy with your recommendation that perhaps we will not be looking at whether the matter is within our jurisdiction or it's beyond our mandate, as per the motion passed by Parliament. And therefore, recommendation, what I wanted your advice on, maybe when you're making your recommendation, whether that can fall within, of course, the purview of Article 188, where it's required that Parliament handles the issue of creation of new borders, counties and whatever. That will be very helpful in terms of a way forward and in terms of recommendations. Lastly, we have the issue of course, the two-thirds gender rule. We are looking for that clause that disappeared. I think you are saying that could really resolve the situation of the two-thirds gender rule. Because in the county assemblies, because of the law that we put there, Article 177, we have achieved in all our 47 county assemblies. But in our National Assembly and I think Parliament, we have a problem. I think you can help us find the clause that disappeared that could have actually resolved this. Be more specific in terms of recommending so that we can pick it as part of a recommendation to resolve that issue. And lastly, the issue of Article 43 and matters of socioeconomic rights. That also, I think you made some very, very good recommendations. It's an issue that, of course, our colleagues in Kenya Kwanza didn't want on the table. But you're saying it's a national crisis. Kenyan suffering don't belong to Kenya Kwanza or Azimio. They are all Kenyans suffering, regardless of how they voted. So there was the recommendation you were making about a national consultation, NCG. I think that's a very good recommendation, which I'm hoping will also capture. But what I wanted to ask is, I think during Kibaki's time, when we had this economic crisis, Kibaki came up with the economic recovery strategy and a team that was tasked to actually address the crisis at the time. I remember during Moi's time, when we had a similar crisis, he came up with a dream team that included people who are not even his supporters, a cross-cutting team of experts and people like Leakey and others who didn't agree with him politically, but a team that would be brought together broad-based and with the necessary expertise, economic and legal luminaries, if that could actually be recommended, so that we say it is no longer a Kenya Kwanza affair, it's a national crisis we are facing. Let's come together and let's reason together.
Well, thank you. Maybe we give you time to respond now. Because in the interest of time and what Cicely was reminding us of, I think it's good. And again, thank you. We are not raising any issues. I think we're very clear.
Mine was just to...
I thought you
have raised a very important issue on the issue of bicameral house vis-a-vis the Senate.
It was very clear.
I want to make a small request that you don't make it off the cuff. You send us a write-up on your thoughts.
Yeah.
I'd actually given him one myself when they were sitting at KICC. Maybe just to enrich it and see what we can do. Over to you, Bwana Amos Wako.
I wish to, my eyes are Nzoia. I'll start with which text should he use? Let me use this one so that I'm not now seeing it clearly. First of all, let me thank you for the comments you have made, which have all been very positive, and that's the way it should be. Mr. Chairman, your committee can even make proposals for amendment. I do not think that the proposal that political parties appoint in any way contradicts the Constitution, but if you feel it somehow contradicts the Constitution, but you like the idea, then you can do a slight amendment. And if you want me to help you, I can do it. Honorable Kalonzo, I just wish to confirm that there was a point when I thought I had enough and I wanted to sign. And actually I gotten good jobs somewhere. But he came, my friend came. He was, of course, my pupil before he became an advocate. So he was now taking care of his master, both spiritually and whatever. He came and really, with a long discussion, and he convinced me not to resign. And that's why I continued. At that time, continued in the next regime, and continued to make a record of 20 years over as Attorney General. And I'm always grateful to you for that. And that's what I've made. I don't know where I would be now if I had made that decision to quit. Honorable Kalonzo, you asked about fidelity to political parties. To me, the situation to me, or that one is very, very clear. Kenya is a multi-party democratic state, and anything that undermines that should not be acceptable. But more important to me is that wananchi, the people, the sovereignty of this country rests in the people. And the people, you have gone to them and you have said that I'm now in this party, these are my programs, and on the basis of that, they have elected you. And maybe you decided to stand on that party because you knew that party was popular in that area. And therefore, for you to be elected, you must be a member of that committee. So you are going there under false pretenses to be elected, and then soon after election to go somewhere else. That is the deception to the people of this country. And we should be very firm on it. I agree with my, if you go to the parliamentary record, what Tom Boyer said when in the parliament, when they brought up that law that if you resign from the party which elected you, then you must go back to the people. And how a by-election. I agree entirely with what Thomas Joseph Boyer said. You should have the courage just to resign and go, rather than say, I will not go. I'll use the processes of the tribunal or the court and so on. And by the time they decide, my time will be over. I've heard such statements being made. And really, that is arrogance, impunity of the highest order. For you to sort of agree, I've left. And you are now on the other side. And then you say, but nothing will happen to me because I'll use the system to stay where I am now until the next election. You know, it's a gross abuse of the system that is there. And such approach should be discouraged and discouraged completely, to me. So, we should make it easier for such people to resign, and not make it not so much for such people to resign, but we should make it easier for the institutions that deal with such matters to make quick decisions, and if there need be a by-election, let it be a by-election, rather than boasting that we are going to use the courts, the tribunals, and so on, which will take you round and round until the 4 or 5 years are over. Really, all of us around this room, we should detest that type of approach to our politics. We are not maturing enough. We should, by now, we should have matured enough. Not even to say that should be an embarrassment to yourself. And they say so again with the pride. This is wrong. This is the rotten part of our Kenyan politics is really that. So I think I've answered you, Mchoka, that one. Dr. Lumari, yeah, thank you very much. We have been together for many years. Safari Park, particularly, and so on. And the comments we made about 2002 elections, the margin of victory was such that they could not be tampered with. Who tells you that? I've been in the system. If I wanted to tamper with that, I would have done it. We have a recent example here in Gabon. Gabon, what happened? Did the Electoral Commission announce so and so has won? But when they opened the server, what happened? And yet the result of the election announced in Gabon, the gap was so wider than the 2002 elections. I think it was something like 17% versus 7%, but they had done it. I'm just saying this to give credit. Let's give the credit where it is due, that the Electoral Commission did a good job in that election and announced the results which reflected the wishes of the people of Kenya. And that Electoral Commission was actually composed of people, commissioners, nominated by political parties of the day. And therefore it's possible. Now, when you say that people nominated by parties will be partial and so on, yeah, it's true. But you see, if you don't give political parties, particularly the 2-3 big ones, that chance to nominate their own people, if they have to go into the system of maneuvering, manipulating the selection system to make sure that the person is there, the type of person they'll nominate will not be a person of gravitas. It will be a sycophant, and therefore he'll be influencing. He'll be there to disturb the situation and so on. So that's why it's good just to accept the situation the way it is. Say, you are the big guys, not nominate. But there should be people of gravitas, and they will do so. Rather than making them go under the table, manipulating, and making sure that their sycophants are nominated. This question. But anyway, thank you very much for putting order in the discussions. I can tell you that President Marire, the governor of Embu, we also have a claim on her in Busia. Yes. So we are very proud of her in Busia also. And then, Eugene Wamadwa, you mentioned quite a number of things which, in a sense, I agree with. Actually, it was agreeing with my recommendations, but also suggesting a few things. This Article 884H, I think it can be used, but it will be useful if there was a clear clause to say that after every general election there'll be that. Opening. Yeah. Make it clear, rather than just a general. I think that's basically what. Senator. Anything else?
Thank you.
But I can say I'm available.
Yeah, thank you. Please enrich our thinking. Including, by the way, you know, this thing, Zambians went, and I think at some stage, Hassan and referring to, again, talk about Frelimo experience in Mozambique and Renemo. But Zambians have actually decided, rather than this electronic transmission, they will do it manually. I don't want you to answer now, but perhaps give it some thought. Give it some thought.
But then you didn't answer whether you were in that petition as one of the lawyers in that Zazmio.
Which one?
That Zazmio petition.
No, I was not.
He wasn't.
Honorable Co-Chair, just to thank the Honorable Attorney General Emeritus. He's actually flown in from, he was out of the country at a family tragedy. And he just flew in for this. And we must really, really appreciate. And we've taken up a lot of your time. In fact, speaking from your brains, we should have paid you your FT fee notes. But because of your patriotism and your colleague, Honorable Gidu Muigai, was here also, this committee benefited greatly. We hope the sitting AG would also have time to come and, you know, you're adding value to our process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, my pupil master.
So we get your right up.
Yeah?
We get your right.
Oh, yeah. I think Okonko, we're going to ask for a write-up. If the chairman orders now
yes,
to...
please do. We wouldn't mind on the issue of the camera house.
Yeah, and be more than...
I am certain Senator Mugeni is interested more on more powers getting to the Senate. And we shall allow it.
If you can give me 14 days. Or that's too much?
We have a balance of 25 days as a committee.
You can do 7 days.
7 days?
No, as Eugene, my namesake, I confirm that I'm also called Eugene.
For the record.
I think it sort of indicated to you that Nikona Huku.
I think you can do
14, fine.
Okay, 14 the fact that you also took time from outside the country to appear to allow you the 14 days.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Asante sana. We have members, we have Kipra next. We still have a group of senators, Enoch Wambua and Tom Ojenda and Namo Onekina. We have agreed to allow the Ogia community 10 minutes. And we have agreed with them strictly 10 minutes because of time. And we still have another 4 groups. You know why I'm saying that? For Eugene and Omar, who never pays attention to what is going on in the meeting. You know why I'm saying that? Did you even hear what I'm saying? You and Eugene, you know why I'm saying that?
Chairman, this is all on camera.
Oh.
But it's fair enough.
But it's fair, because the housekeeping,
Yeah, just asking that
time.
Eugene keeps his comments brief.
No, for Eugene and Hassan Omar, it is not comments. Please keep your lectures brief.
Chair, what you need to guide is that they've made their comments for the entire day. Now they need to
Now they
for the rest of the day.
No, Aaron Cheriot.
I will skip some.
To show a level of maturity. You know, that was very high.
No, you know Eugene and Omar. I think I want to agree with Senator Aaron. You have spoken for the day.
Tumetumia bundles zetu.
I will skip some.
Bundles zimeisha. Eugene.
Kipra, are they here?
Yeah, there they are.
Thank you. We will allow you to pass. Kipra, karibuni. We'll do a quick round of introduction. From my right, Senator Mugeni Okongo, Senator Nyamira, Honorable Amina Malindi, Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, Honorable Pio Andai, I just stepped out, His Excellency Alonzo Musyoka, Senator Omar Hassan, Governor Cecily Marire, Senator Aaron Cheruyot, who is our majority leader. Mine is Kimani Ichung'wah. Karibu, you can equally do a quick introduction. We'll give you 10, 15 minutes. Are you able to do yours in 10 minutes?
Thanks very much, Chair.
Is that you do not need affirmative action.
Huh? So I'm going to, thanks very much. We are really grateful to be here. I'll start by introducing my team. On my right, I have Dr. Elda Onsom, who is a director. And then on my left, I have Irene Mithia, again a director at the Institute. And my name is Rose Ngugi. I'm the executive director for KIPRA. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay, Rose, I think what you didn't get what His Excellency was saying is saying you do not need affirmative action in terms of the female gender balance, but you may need affirmative action in terms of boy child. So, karibu.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think you've asked whether we can do it in our contribution in 10 minutes. We'll try to do that. First of all, is to say that we received an invitation to this committee on the 19th of September to make a presentation on any of the 5 issues that the National Dialogue Committee is focusing on. And KIPRA, we have a submission on one of the issues, and that is on issue on outstanding constitutional matters relating to the Article 43 of the Constitution, the cost of living, and related issues. The Article 43 of the Constitution on cost of living and related issues covers various aspects, these including economic and rights of everyone in Kenya. That covers one, highest attainable standard of health, adequate food and of acceptable quality, matters to do with housing, matters to do with clean water, social security and education. And this is what we are focusing on, given that at the moment what we are facing is rising cost of living and also inequality. And we also look at this as basic needs for each and every Kenyan. And since independence, sessional paper number 10 of 1963 identified 3 basic issues for Kenyans, and that is matters to do with poverty, issues to do with hunger, and also health. And these things have continued even in the Vision 2030, the Big 4 agenda, and the better. Matters to do with the basic needs of Kenyans have continued to carry the day. And of critical importance when it comes to cost of living is the fact that when you look at these basic needs, food, shelter, health, clothing, and education, they actually compete for income for households. And when we think about the bottom of the pyramid, it means that they are competing for very meager income. And without an increase in a commensurate increase in the income levels, then it means that the households are left with a very big headache on how they can allocate the resources to meet all the needs. We appreciate that the government has continuously continued to support matters to do with access to basic needs, but there are still some issues that we still feel still facing us, otherwise we would not be where we are today. So I'm going to look at two issues, and Dr. Elder will look at the other three. And the first one is to do with the adequacy of food and of acceptable quality. And start by saying that, yes, the government has given priority to food production to achieve food and nutrition security. And a lot of efforts have been put on the supply side, whether we are talking about fertilizer subsidies to reduce the cost of production, investing in irrigation to ensure that we are not relying on rain-fed production, agricultural extension services so that we can have high-quality yields, matters to do with the minimum wage, because without that you can not talk about the demand side of issues. Access to credit, because credit is where we smoothen our consumption today and tomorrow. Expansion of social protection, and social protection comes in very handy because we realize that there are many of us who are below poverty line, and we need to be protected to sustain our livelihood. In addition, is making markets work, and there's a lot that is happening. Right now, we have a Ministry of Cooperatives, a very key move forward in terms of not only aggregation, but also supporting farmers to see that they can access markets. So what do we see as gaps in food supply? Of course, as a country, we are producing food, but there are circumstances when you'll find that the supply of food results in some areas having bumper harvest and other areas not having any food. In addition, you'll also find that when we have good rains, we have bumper harvests, but during drought situation, we find ourselves again struggling with food supply. It means that there's one element we are not exploiting, and this is the value addition, which we do through manufacturing. And manufacturing costs are high. One, given that for you to do food manufacturing, you're actually relying on inputs from agriculture, and agriculture output is actually susceptible to drought situations. So during drought situations, we find we don't have adequate raw materials for manufacturing. In addition, you'll notice that in manufacturing, food manufacturing, majority of the farms are actually micro and small enterprises, which of course we know face a lot of challenges, including technology, as well as sourcing for this raw material. So on the supply side then, you'll notice that we have not managed to smoothen between bumper harvests and when we have drought, and therefore we don't have adequate food. On the demand side, you'll notice that we have a registered minimum wage, and this minimum wage covers about 77% of our workers. We have seen over time that minimum wage has been actually reviewed upwards, and the last time that it was reviewed upwards is in 2022 by 12%. But the increase in the prices for essential commodities went up by 22%, which means that the purchasing power for households was actually reduced. And given that in Kenya, households spend over 50% of their budget in food, it means that with an increase in the food prices, without an increase in minimum wage, it leaves the households at a very weak position to manage their basic needs. Further is the food inflation. If you look at inflation in Kenya, a key significant contribution is food. Like last year, on average, the overall inflation was about 7.7%, with food inflation at 13.1%, almost double that. So anytime we therefore think about food, it should be the first priority, it should be our second priority, it should be the third priority if we have to manage the welfare of Kenyans. And for this reason, it's important to think about how we can diversify our crops, how we can support the production, as well as how we can actually enhance the earnings of the households so that they can smoothen their demand for food. And lastly is also the social security, social safety nets, which can come in handy for the vulnerable groups when we have food price shocks. And of course, we know that we are moving very well with the early warning system, but the key question is how we actually manage to put everything in order such that when we have drought, we don't face the same situation that we had with a prolonged drought that started in 2021.
Dr. Maybe if I could guide you, you're already 7 minutes and you've only tackled 1 out of 7 issues. Meaning if we move at that pace, we'll probably finish at 3 and we'll not be doing justice to the rest of the country and other stakeholders who have been waiting. I want to propose that don't take us through the entire paper. It's a very good paper, very well written, and just give us highlights.
Okay.
Don't go through item by item the way you're doing it.
Thank you. Thank
and I'm sorry, I know you're an academician, so you are very tempted to take us through a class.
Yeah. And I'm also a former lecturer, so
yes.
also give a
I saw that danger, Mwalimu.
All right. So I've just talked about social safety net, so I can talk about social security. I'll take only 1 minute and say that yes, a lot has been done. But the kind of gaps that we are realizing is that if we look at, say, for example, the hunger safety net programs, we give households about 2,000 per month. And these are mainly, for example, in rural areas. And the poverty line, going by the 2015-2016 household survey, is actually at about 1954, which means that we are giving them just at the poverty level. And when there is an increase in prices, this is not revealed upwards. So they are left actually, they actually drop down the poverty line. When it comes to poverty across the children, what you'll notice is that 4 out of every 4 children actually facing a significant level of poverty, which has implications in terms of their nutrition levels, and we shall discuss nutrition later. But I want to say at this point that when we don't take care of children at that very beginning, the country tends to lose about 6.9% of GDP to malnutrition, and a core element is in productivity, which is about 6.5% of GDP. So going forward then, we are saying that we need to look at the social protection such that in addition to minimum wage, we go beyond that. and see to it that we are providing affordable transport, housing, universal health care, and education, so that we can leave the households with adequate budget that they can allocate to other things that they need in life. And also finally is to address matters to do with social mobility. From our research, we found that poor households tend to get to poor situations because even when we have social protection, which are not well targeted, then poor households are not benefiting. And if they don't benefit, they don't take their children to school. If they don't take their children to school, the children actually end up being poor. So to break that, it's critical that we look at how we target our social protection to allow for social mobility for those at the bottom of the pyramid. Chair, I'll give 5 minutes to my colleague here, Dr. Elder, and I'll tell her to use just 5 minutes.
I think 5 minutes on the high side.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I'll take us through the following areas. I start with health and nutrition. The government, as we know, is implementing a number of interventions, starting with the universal health care. We also have a lot of support when it comes to provision of food. We have a lot of support when it comes to production of vaccines. However, a number of issues remain that are outstanding. First is the high out-of-pocket spending. And this is basically because we have emergence of non-communicable diseases, because the country is transitioning from the higher incidence of communicable diseases like malaria, which is being tackled, but now we have new diseases like hypertension, we have diabetes, we have cancer, among others. All those constitute the high cost of out-of-pocket. We have a mismatch between what we are spending and the outcomes of health, particularly when it comes to the overall human capital of the country. Stockouts in medical centers, particularly the public health institutions, and this is because of weaker supply chain systems, the distribution of human resources for health, and these include the doctors, the specialists, we have the community health workers, among others, which then means going forward we need to tackle this through the following: ensuring that we expand the provision of quality health. This tackles support for households, and this can be through the universal health coverage. We need to improve the budgetary allocation and utilization, because primary health is one of the default functions, and here the counties have a key role to play, particularly from the prevention, nutrition, and also ensuring that we access public utilities like water, which are key. We also need to look at the redistribution of healthcare workers. When it comes to housing, this is a key area because in the Article 43, each Kenyan has a right to quality housing, and this is housing that has amenities, but the key gaps can be tackled through exploring effective land use planning and management policies, which ensure that all the population in the rural and urban areas, particularly in the informal settlements, have access to housing that has amenities and housing that helps them attain the basic minimum as per the Constitution. We also need to balance between the development of our infrastructure such that every Kenyan can access that pertains to quality and also the standard of accommodation. When it comes to clean water and safe water, we know the amendment of the Water Bill 2023, which supports partnerships, but we have outstanding issues which relate to access to clean and safe water in the informal settlements, arid and semi-arid lands, and even in the high potential areas where we still have poor water harvesting systems that we can leverage on as a country, and that then compromises the quality of water that the Kenyans are accessing. Going forward, then, we recommend the need to enhance investments and capacity development in rural and the informal settlements. We need to look at the water management, particularly wastewater treatment, which requires use of technology and also high capital investment. When it comes to water harvesting, it will be important to put legislative frameworks in place, particularly in the public places where we have high levels of space in terms of roofing that accommodates water when it rains, and that can be harvested for use not only in the urban areas where we have most housing, but also even in the rural areas through the piping. Finally, on education, in addition to the reforms that are taking place, we find gaps in terms of inequalities to access to education, particularly in the post-primary education, which we know is key where skills are being developed. Interventions then could relate to addressing inequalities in access to quality education, and here technology has a key role, and hence need to look at how to have universal access to internet, particularly not only in schools, but in homes and in public places, looking at the safety of children online, and also improving school infrastructure by increasing also community awareness on their role in provision of education, both at the basic level and tertiary level, which we know is very key for skills development and also human capital development.
Well, we thank you. Does your colleague want to add anything in a minute? We don't want to feel deprived.
Yes.
But please notice, yeah. We thank you for accepting to even give us a written memorandum.
Thank you, Chair. We are satisfied with the submissions, and we look forward to further engagement. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We thank you so much. I don't know whether any of the colleagues here would want to interact with that submission.
Yeah, I just one very short question.
We shall hear Honorable Hassan Omar in absolute silence.
Yes, this is a very well done paper, and I always have a lot of respect for the work done by Kipra, and I can see once upon a time your former board chair, Linda Musumba, is here with us. My question is that as you make all these analysis about government interventions, particularly in terms of mitigating the cost of living, can you either forecast the impact it has had or forecast the impact it will have? Like you see, we said we did a G2G, government to government on the fuel. That was supposed to ease the pressure on the dollar, so that then we don't have scarcity of dollars like what is happening in Tanzania. And in addition to that, to try and keep the rate of the shilling against the dollar, at least to mitigate it. We have had interventions with respect to subsidies on fertilizer. We've had an intervention in terms of bringing oil and other food products at zero-rated import duty. So I want, are you able, maybe even if you don't have the answers now, to analyze, because this government is implementing a plan, and you are a government agency, to analyze whether there is some impact with some of these interventions in the short and probably in the long term of some of these interventions with respect to mitigating the cost of living.
Yes.
I just want to really thank the three ladies. I think it's the first time we are having this kind of forum where the entire team is one of ladies. And it gives me some comfort. For the first time, we are not talking about the men. and just to let you, actually, I am very keen to know whether, just taking up from what Hassan has said, are you analyzing the impact of the government programs that are there in the plan in relation to the issues that you've raised? For example, I'd be very happy to hear from you what has been the impact of the subsidized fertilizer to farmers in relation to the last season, and has that improved the quantity and quality of food? Are we there? Are we there yet? And in your view, if listening to Kenyans and politicians, we want quick fixes. We want to wake up one morning and the government has subsidized fuel by half or by a quarter or whatever percentage. We want to wake up one day and we have subsidized maize meal so that it's now below 150. And we saw that attempt in the last regime. Between what happened in the last regime from a very independent position and what is being attempted currently by the current regime, which is the better way of sorting these issues? Is it those quick fixes, or is it long-term, well-calculated plans?
Chair, because I served in the last regime, I think our friends from Kenya Kwanza are saying their plan is working very well. We just want to know, because this plan is called Bottom-Up Economic Transformation Agenda, Better. This plan was supposed to make lives better for Kenyans. In 100 days, now it's a year. If this plan has worked, as my colleagues are saying, and we have a bumper harvest, why is it that we're importing yellow maize now? Can you explain to us? Many of us are farmers. We don't understand. It's very worrying. The last time we ate yellow maize, I was a little boy in the Nyayo era. Are things okay? Is the plan working?
May I clarify something about the yellow maize? And this is so important, especially for the Honorable Eugene Wamalwa. The yellow maize is coming here to strictly help us with livestock, animal feeds, poultry, livestock. Because what the government has realized upon analysis is that the cost of animal feeds is too high to keep farmers in profit. And that's why we are bringing in cheap yellow maize, not for human consumption, I repeat here, not for human consumption, but for animals. That's the purpose of the yellow maize. So Eugene Wamalwa, be sure of that. And that's why we're giving fertilizer for proper maize for human consumption.
Okay. I think, Chair, we live in this country. This is a country where we've had sugar being imported and mixed, brown and white. Once you open the door for yellow maize, what controls do we have? That's the worry of most farmers. We have a bumper, we are harvesting. I just came from home now. Why you bring us yellow maize now when we have a bumper harvest?
You know, if we, although His Excellency keeps encouraging dialogue, when we speak across the table to speak to each other, I think the fair thing is to allow Kipra to have that very balanced analysis to tell us. Because, for instance, speaking from where Cess is sitting, I may have the view that the subsidies, consumer subsidies that Honorable Eugene's government did in the last regime did not work. If anything, they left all those bills to this regime to pay. And therefore, Kipra would be in a better position to be able to analyze and tell us.
All of you guys who are together, you're talking strange things to some of us.
I can confirm that Kimani Ichung'wah was not there. We were all together.
We were all together initially before Eugene edged us out. So maybe Kipra should be able to analyze and tell us what is a more sustainable policy to pursue. Is it the consumer subsidies? Is it the producer subsidies? Is it what from your paper, I have seen you've spoken about wage increments and enforcing that, because the cost of living inevitably will keep rising. And some by factors beyond our control as a country, for instance, the fuel issue. But the challenge then are Kenyans having the levels of income to be able to afford that cost of living. So maybe you would strike a balance for us, and we don't expect you to necessarily have all the answers now. Would not mind a well-done paper like this one, probably to answer those questions if you're not in a position to answer now, unless you have a quick one as we close.
Thanks very much, Chair, and thanks very much, committee members. I think these are very exciting questions, and I want to say one is that yes, we can do impact, and we have done actually a very good analysis on the implications if all the proposals that have been given by the government were to be implemented. But I want to say that recently we have launched our report, the Kenya Economic Report, that was looking at the cost of living. And one of the key things that you'll notice from it, and that's why we are focusing a lot on the food, is that food actually taking over 50% of the income. It makes it the first, second, and third priority that we should get into. Transport costs, especially for those who are using matatus and the like, it also takes almost 10% for transport, and it is among, I think, the second in terms of contribution to the cost of living for Kenyans. So when we are able to reduce actually the cost for fuel, it means that you can reduce the cost for transport. It means that you can reduce the cost for distribution of foods, and therefore you can have an implication on the prices for food. Now, it's one thing to have food supply in the market, but it's another to say that I can access it. I may not access it because it's not affordable, but can I also be empowered to actually access it? And I can only access it if my income is also taken care of, which means that increase productivity for micro and small enterprises, for the farmers, they can reap higher and they can increase their incomes. Yeah? But at the same time, you say that you may not actually get that immediately. You may also find that there are those who are still struggling, and that's why matters to do with the social protection come in. And the social protection means that we need also to review not just the 2,000 that we are giving to the households, but we need also to ask ourselves, are we giving them something real? In real terms, what are we giving to them? So both the supply side and the demand side factors need to be taken into account so that we can see markets operating. And it does not mean that the government does not have a role. It has a very major role to ensure that it's able to put in appropriate regulations to ensure that one is able to access, and that the pricing process is also not, what would I say, it's not penalizing, especially those at the bottom of the pyramid.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Adi. We will encourage you to give us a more detailed analysis of such interventions for us to be able to interact with as we continue, because we may not have the time now to engage on everything. Analyze all those things from fuel to the changes with the social health insurance from NHIF, because they all have a bearing on the cost of living, including proposals on what you are saying on income disparities among us Kenyans. Asante sana.
How soon can we have that?
Yeah, how soon can you be able to do that?
You want us to do another submission?
Yeah.
Additional submission?
Yes.
The previous one was asking 14 days. I don't know whether 10 days will be good.
Yes.
10 days, fair enough.
10 days. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ari.
Thank you.
And your team. We have next the Chamus community. Please, Sergeant at Arms, usher them in quickly. And we agreed we are only giving them 10 minutes because they are not even in our program. Yeah? Yeah?
Then we can come in we start.
Senators, karibu. Then usher in the Chamus community to sit right behind Senator Wambua and Senator Ojienda. And not everybody. Sergeant at Arms, they must select a small group. We don't want the drama of people coming to sing here.
But now,
Are you alone, Senator? Or Senator Ojienda? There was an indication that you are. You are
Wait, look mystified.
Ojienda.
Why don't you allow us to listen to Chamus then, as you wait for your colleagues? Find out where they are.
But maybe they are not presenting together.
Chair,
They are all separate.
We were informed, Senator Wambua.
I need to be guided.
Yeah?
I need to be guided. I'm here on account of a memorandum that I sent to this team.
And in our meeting last week, we proposed, and I think it's Senator Mugeni who told us that there is a bicameral issue on the bicameral parliament that you are coming to present together with Ladama and Senator Tom Ojienda, because for the other individual member of parliament's memoranda, we had resolved to interact with the memoranda and avoid the face-to-face engagements, since we have not also accorded the same to other Kenyans. And we said in the spirit of fairness to other Kenyans, we interact with your memoranda just like we interact with all other Kenyans' memoranda, unless it is a group, and that's why we were convinced by Senator Mugeni there was a bicameral issue that you had to present together with Senator Ojienda and Senator Olekina. Just like we have a group of 27 members of parliament addressing the issue of proposed counties, and I know your memoranda also touched on a proposed county of Mwingi. I'll probably propose, if it is that's the issue you are here on, probably it's fairer to join the other group so that we listen to you on the issue of bicameralism.
Chair, let me just intervene. Just first of all, for us to confirm where the two other senators are there or not. But even if they aren't there, since he has come at the time that we allotted for them, yes, would they indulge him?
Yes.
Yes, for just a few minutes.
Even if it's
then we excuse him. Yeah.
It's okay.
No, you know the way Mheshimiwa Omar is putting this matter, we start on the wrong footing.
It's on the wrong footing.
No, it's okay.
Omar is not on record. Maybe you respond to what I have said and Honorable Bio.
Okay, let me go on record.
Yeah.
Co-chair, first of all, I'm happy that you've invited me to make a presentation to this team. Those conversations that you had with the team about then what it is that I'd come and present on were not communicated to me.
Okay.
So if you had an internal communication amongst yourselves and you did not inform me, it would be very unfair, co-chair, to expect that I have come from Kitui to make a point on Mwingi County. Wait, listen to you, wait. To make a point on Mwingi County, yes. Then you tell me Senator, I have to wait to my colleagues.
I just want confirmation from the Secretariat that that was not communicated, because that are the instructions we gave. Emigen, is he here?
In an event, Chair, since we had agreed we hear him, let's just hear him. Avoid those other things, and let's.
We hear you?
Yeah.
10 minutes. We have a holy senator.
Hey, that's okay. I'll make it 5 minutes.
Please, we would be happy if it was even 5.
That's okay. So I thank the team for inviting me, and as I said, my presentation is on a proposal that I sent to this team on a constitutional matter in relation to the creation of Mwingi County. Our co-chairs, for the information of this team, this is not a conversation that started yesterday. It's a matter that I've been engaged in since 2019. Those of your colleagues who sat with me in the Senate between 2017 and 2022 will remember that I brought this proposal to the Senate, and that time actually Omogeni was the chair of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. When we were accorded an opportunity to present a memoranda to the then BBI, I made the same presentation. And so I will take you through what it is that I'm thinking, and I will leave the final decision to the team. Co-chairs, I am guided by Article 6 of the Constitution of Kenya, Article 6.1, that provides that the territory of Kenya is divided into the counties specified in the first schedule. By that statement alone, it should be noted that the drafters of the Constitution were alive to the fact that there is no magic number in number 47. That the first schedule can be amended to create more counties or even to reduce the number of counties. So on the basis of that chapter 6.1 of the Constitution, I do make a presentation on a proposal to create a second county in Kitui called Mwingi. My idea, co-chairs, is what I would call authentic. It's an original, authentic idea. I do understand, as you have mentioned, co-chair, there is also a caucus of members of the National Assembly who are also pushing the agenda of creating additional counties in this country. Respectively, Mr. Chairman, a lot of that, again, is a Me Too attitude, that now that some people are asking for counties, will also ask for additional counties. My idea is authentic in the sense that, Mr. Chairs, the genesis of the creation of counties in this country under the 2010 Constitution was informed by a decision in Naivasha that the districts that had been created and gazetted around 1992-93 would be given a county status. At that time, co-chairs, there were 48 districts that were created up to and including 92-93. What the mistake was, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairs, is that the districts that were created around the same time that Mwingi district was created from Kitui district, including Tharaka-Nithi from Meru, and Makueni from Machakos, were given county status because they had been gazetted as districts. Unfortunately, at creation, Mwingi district was not immediately gazetted, and for that reason, we lost out on a county status. The chairs, it is the same challenge that I found when I was elected the senator of Kitui County. that Kitui County had lost out on benefiting from the equalization fund because again of technical issues. It took my personal intervention in the offices of the CRA to argue that it would look bad in the eyes of an ordinary Kenyan to hear that some sections in Kiambu and Nyeri and Murang'a are benefiting from the equalization fund, and not a single area in Kitui had been listed to benefit from the equalization fund. And that is how then the formula of moving from classifying marginalized areas in regard to counties was changed, and now they started looking at areas, villages, locations, where then you would have pockets of marginalization for counties to begin to benefit from the equalization fund. Co-chairs, my proposal is an attempt to cure an injustice vested and visited on the people of Mwingi, and by extension the entire Lower Eastern region, on account of a failure by the Office of the Attorney General to gazette a district. And I am urging this committee, the National Dialogue Committee, not to grant the invitation from any quarter to be bystanders as the people of Mwingi continue to suffer this injustice. Co-chairs and members, the object of this proposal, which I have presented to you, is to amend the Constitution of Kenya and to ensure that resources and services are brought closer to the people by splitting the expansive Kitui County into 2 counties. For the information of these members and for the record, the distance between the southern farthest end of Kitui, which is Athi Town, to the farthest northern end of Kitui, which is Usweni, is 350 kilometers. The distance from Bomet to Nairobi, traversing Narok County, Nakuru County, Kiambu County, and Nairobi, is 228 kilometers. So as you travel from Bomet to Nairobi, you have only covered half of Kitui County. And the beauty of our county is that it is settled all over. You wouldn't say that there are regions in Kitui County that have no settlements. So the distance to service, to take service to the people in the farthest end of the county is a challenge to the administrators, and that is why we are asking this committee, if and when, because I believe that there will be an opportunity to open the Constitution, if then that opportunity is availed, then you should consider correcting the injustice, the technicality on Mwingi. And I'm saying that we have 3 constituencies in Mwingi, which is Mwingi Central, Mwingi West, and Mwingi North, and a total number of 15 wards, which would constitute a county either from Kitui, with a population of about 450,000 people, according to the 2019 annual census report. The Speaker, the Chair, as I move towards closure, there have been arguments against this push, and you've heard them on the floor. There are people who will argue that it is too expensive to create an additional county. There are others who argue that why Kitui and not X or Y county. My response to that, co-chairs, is that anybody arguing about the expenses of creating a new county is just being unrealistic. And if you think then democracy is expensive, we could try anarchy. There is nothing in expenses that should stop a people, a population, from enjoying the benefits of devolution. Because we have comparative jurisdiction, co-chairs. We have counties in this country that are much, much, much smaller than the proposed Mwingi County, much smaller. I could mention just 2 or 3 of them. Kirinyaga County, with a landmass of 1,479 square kilometers, is a county. In fact, I make this joke, co-chairs, about Kirinyaga County, that the county is so small, and I'm not saying that they should be denied their status, no. They're so small that even the Catholic Church has not established a diocese in Kirinyaga. It is administered from Muranga, and yet they have a county status. You go to Lamu with 2 constituencies. Go to Isiolo with 2 constituencies. You go to Samburu with 3 constituencies. Tharaka-Nithi, which is even smaller than Kirinyaga, with 3 constituencies. Co-chairs, it is my submission. I see the co-chair wants to interrupt me. You can.
Thank you. Not to interrupt, I was just prompting you to wind up, as I also noted that you are avoiding mentioning Nyamira, which is in your document, because the Senator Okongo is here.
I have not mentioned Nyamira, I have not mentioned Mombasa, I have not mentioned Vihiga. I said I mentioned just a few of them. Nyamira happens to be one of those ones that I did not mention.
Senator Wambuya, you are cleverly avoiding Nyamira.
No.
Because of Senator Okongo Mugeni here.
No. He knows you don't roll that way. He knows very well. So,
right, if you can wind up, please.
Let me wind up. My proposal, co-chairs, comes complete with a proposed draft amendment bill. It's attached to my proposal. And for the ease of reference, the only thing that we're looking at doing is actually amending only 3 sections of the Constitution. Article 97 of the Constitution, that makes reference to 47 women representatives. We change that to read 48. Article 98, which makes reference to 47 senators, we move to 48. And the same article 98B, the clause dealing with 16 nominated as women senators, because this proposal actually even cures on the gender representation. So we move from 16 nominated senators to 18 women, and then of course amending the first schedule.
Thank you, Senator, since the proposal is attached. Okay. Members?
Just a small clarification.
Aaron,
Senator Wangwa. And thank you very much, Senator, for this very, very precise and concise presentation, and done so eloquently. Just one issue, for record purposes, if in your view, such an amendment would require a referendum or not, just that only. And then, just a light note on the issue of the Catholic dioceses. You know, even Nzoia County is administered under one diocese together with Kisumu, despite them being too big.
It must be very small.
You know, Wambuya is a Catholic, so let us.
Certainly is not a Catholic.
He's not Catholic.
That I have to
I see. Yeah, I see. Yes. So I'm not sure whether he has a diocese in Siaya or in Kirinyaga.
Thank you.
I sure do know they have a couple of churches. I'm not sure. But yeah, I know. Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Senator Wambua, for finding time to come. Now, I know how passionate you are about this particular cause. And my question to you is not to the people of Kitui specifically, and you who's a representative, but it's a wholesome team that appears before us. You're here. Right behind you are people from Chamus in Baringo County and spread out in other counties in Kenya. We have previously listened to about 2 or 3 others. And tomorrow we listen to 27 colleagues of ours who are on a similar quest. So therefore, I don't want you to take this question as either opposition or support to you, the quest that you have. But it's just to help appreciate and see if you do appreciate the economic situation that the country finds itself in, and how do you plead given that there is statistics out there, Senator. First of all, number one, to argue for or against this long debate that we've had from 1963 on population versus land size. Because if the people of Kirinyaga were here as well, just to use as an example, they'd say that for half the population of what they have, close to almost 650,000 people, against your population by 2019 statistics of 1.1, they get only 50% of the allocation that you get to administer and do the same. I could even make it better and say, my own people, the people of Kericho, same number in size, 1 million population. Our county shareable allocation is somewhere upwards of 6 billion. Yours is 10 point something billion. And therefore I could push a case and say, on account of population alone, it deserves to be similar. Therefore, it's a very complex debate, which when we have the challenge, and the reason why I'll ask you this, and perhaps not any other of the groups that have presented, is because you're a leader, we sit together in Senate, and you understand the intrigues and the difficulties that the country continues to face. Wouldn't you propose rather a way and means of ensuring that services get closer to your people, more than just creation of an administrative unit? And you know this, Senator Wambua, that in all our 47 counties presently, and this is something that we need to consider in Senate in the next coming days, all our counties are in violation of Section 25 of the PFM Act. There is none that is devoting more than 30% of their shareable revenue to development. So therefore, what you end up doing is that when you create additional counties, you're giving jobs to perhaps a maximum of 1,000, 2,000 people, but what eventually gets as actual development to the people that you're seeking is only 20% of that. Haven't you thought of maybe of another way other than just creation of a county, of trying to ensure that your people get justice? I thank you, Chair.
Yes, Senator, we'll allow you to quickly respond to those two.
Yes, I will. Let me begin with
I need to say this before you do that. You're quite right. The Attorney General Emeritus was sitting there before you, actually confirmed that he was the violator. He's the one who gave the list in order to break the stalemate, because some were asking for 100, others 18, and others. So he really used like a rule of the thumb and said those which were which had been gazetted as districts. And although Mwingi was announced, I remember that, about the same time the Rakanedi was given the district status, and Makueni, and Mwingi was just not gazetted. It's really, you're quite right in saying the office of the Attorney General let down the people of Mwingi, because that was the criterion that was being used. So I want just to agree with you on that score.
I think your party leader, it feels good when your party leader agrees with you. Now I can deal with the rest. On the matter of the referendum, yes. I think because this will touch on the structure of devolution. Then it's a question that should go to the people and let the people of Kenya decide whether it is something they want to do. I'm very clear about that. On the matter of what Senator Cheruiyot is asking, who is also my leader in the Senate, two things. One, he brings in the argument that I started with, the Me Too argument. That if you create Mwingi County, then other people will say, Me Too, and will give their reasons. But I am convinced, and my party leader has gone me out, that the reason why we don't have Mwingi County today is not because another person was given a county. It is because somebody slept on their job. The Attorney General did not gazette Mwingi County alongside Tharaka Nithi and Makueni. And on that account, now the people of Mwingi will continue to suffer injustice because of the mistake of one person. That's the way I look at it. Secondly, Senator Cheruiyot, this country is defined, Kenya is defined as its citizens and its land. And that's why a lot of presidents will say, we will not cede an inch to anyone, because land is important. So land mass is as important to this country as the population is. So the argument that there are people that have huge populations and small pieces of land, in my case, does not arise, because then what you lose in land mass, you gain in population. And what you lose in population, then you gain in land mass. And as I conclude, I say this. Devolution, Honorable Team, devolution has actually been hijacked at county headquarters. The drafters of this constitution, and that's why they are leaving that Article 6 open. They did not envisage a situation where, when you create a county headquarters, now that is the end of devolution, things now should work properly from there. No. That should have been the beginning of it. That we should evolve further to wards, to constituencies. And by extension, then this one county, just one county in this country, Mwingi, that was denied a right by the mistake of one person. I will leave it to you to decide whether you want just to say they lost and they lost, then let them live with it, or you may want to correct that injustice on account of the fact that we all agree, and the AG Emeritus was here, as you've told me, he has confirmed that it is him that did not gazette Mwingi. I rest my case.
Thank you, Senator. And it is indeed true. He was seated right where you are seated, and he made that concession. We hear you and sympathize with not you only, but the people of Mwingi and many other Kenyans who feel that there is some element of injustice. But that is why we are here. We will consider yours and those of other Kenyans. Asante. Na kwaheri if you are traveling back to Kitui County. Or is it to be?
You're doing badly. I thought you'll invite me for lunch.
and unfortunately, Senator, and it's good because the fourth estate are here. And I saw the nation accuse this committee of gobbling up 100 million shillings. And I heard, I think over the weekend, someone saying that we are sipping expensive tea and champagne. We unfortunately have no facilities. We are here to get a shilling. Even the waters and the conference facilities, we are here courtesy of a well-wisher, one of our civil society organizations that have been meeting the conferencing facility costs, including our teas and light meals when we have a long day like today. But unfortunately, because of you and the Chamus and Public Service Commission who are here, we are not even able to break for lunch.
That's okay. Chair, actually, let me help you there, because then it's a problem. And let's confirm to media, because I sat in this committee, the first team. And to be honest to this country, there is no government money that is being spent on these things. It's a volunteer service. It's people doing this for the nation. So thinking that government is giving these people allowances or monies, I think we should disabuse ourselves of that notion and just allow Kenyans to do their job. They're just doing their job.
Thank you, Senator. We will request, just hold on, we request Public Service Commission. I'm told you have a meeting at 3:30. So we request the Chamus community to hold on.
No, just sit.
Letagule, just take your seats first. We allow the Public Service Commission. They will be very brief. We wanted to slot in at you at their time, but they have insisted. So we allow them a quick presentation. Thank you. I believe you know everybody here. We will not bother you with introductions. Maybe you just introduce yourselves for the record and move straight on to your presentation. I'm told it's a very brief one. It will take 5 or 10 minutes?
10, not more than 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, co-chairs, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah and Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, and the honorable members of this committee. Greetings from the Public Service Commission. My name is Anton Mushiri. I'm the chairperson of the Public Service Commission. And today I'm accompanied by my director of legal. Her name is Jacqueline Manani. It is a privilege for us to be here on your invitation, honorable co-chairs and members, to this most important National Dialogue Committee. By way of introduction, the Public Service Commission did receive a letter from the National Dialogue Committee on 19 September 2023 for oral presentations on the 5 agenda items forming the terms of reference of the committee. Honorable co-chairs, we've already given our written submissions to the Secretariat, and these documents should be getting to this committee shortly. The Commission does welcome and appreciate the invitation, it being a major stakeholder in the labor market of this country, as it is responsible both directly and indirectly in the management of over 300,000 public officers through various instruments developed and or approved by the Commission. Honorable co-chairs, the Commission is established under Article 233 of the Constitution, and its mandate is outlined in Article 234, of which I will not belabor. It is clearly spelled out in the Constitution. So from the foregoing, the Commission's role in public service institutional development and management is central, not only to the government of the day, but to the nation as a whole. In view of its mandate, the Commission bears the responsibility for improving the capability of the public service to provide strategic and innovative policy advice that spurs growth to meet citizens' expectations. That is why it is normally referred to in our mission charter as a citizen-centric public service. So, honorable co-chairs, the Commission did consider the request of the National Dialogue Committee and hereby presents its views and proposals. On electoral justice and related matters, that's the restructuring and reconstitution of the IEBC. Honorable co-chairs, IEBC has been a matter of concern to many Kenyans and public servants equally, and indeed to the Public Service Commission. Partly because of the anxiety raised by its decisions in all electoral processes. The institution should therefore be restructured in a manner that makes it more effective, efficient, and credible on matters elections. Restructuring and reconstitution of IBC should be done in the spirit and letter of the Constitution. IBC is an independent constitutional commission, as defined in Article 248(2) of the Constitution, with the object of protecting the sovereignty of the people, securing the observance by all state organs of democratic values and principles, and promoting constitutionalism as provided in Article 245 of the Constitution. The Public Service Commission is also bound by this. These objectives should be at the core of restructuring IEBC to ensure that the persons who will eventually be appointed as members will be able to deliver on their mandate. Co-chairs, for purposes of objectivity and independent identification of members of IEBC, the framework and process of restructuring and reconstitution of IEBC as an independent commission should be defined in a manner that would not be subject to interference or influence by various quarters of society, including political parties. The recruitment of members of IEBC should be shielded from political party interests that ultimately cast aspersions on the results of elections. Co-chairs, in other words, the members of IEBC should be like Caesar's wife, they're beyond reproach. The process of appointment of persons as chairpersons and members should be competitive, objective, and fair, and should safeguard the interest of the major stakeholders, particularly the people of Kenya, rather than a select few segment of the society. Number two, outstanding constitution matters, the cost of living. The rising cost of living has continuously impacted negatively on public officers, which has resulted in a low morale, poor performance, and poor social welfare of officers, some of whom are undergoing depression, for, amongst other reasons, the inability to meet their financial obligations as and when they fall due. Data held by the State Department for Public Service shows that 12,532 public officers sought psychosocial support in the financial year 2022-23 as compared to 6,616 in the financial year 2018-19, representing an increase of 84%. Inability of public officers to maintain the 1/3 of net salary requirements, thereby causing pecuniary embarrassment to the officers. Co-chairs, the commissioner's access to the public service payroll management system, which shows that out of 79,253 public officers in the civil service, 17,132, representing 21.62%, earn less than 1/3 of their basic salary. Additionally, out of 31,892 officers in the prison service, 13,661, which is a 42.8.3%, earn less than 1/3 of their basic salary. In the discipline services, out of 106,667 officers, 51,784, representing 48.5%, earn less than 1/3 of their basic salary. This data paints a grim picture of the situation that public officers are faced with as and when additional taxes and levies are introduced in their paycheck. Our recommendations are that majority of public officers are servicing mortgages either through the civil servants housing scheme or other non-public schemes. This affects their disposable income and, in essence, their quality of life. The Commission therefore proposes that either the taxation regime be reviewed, a considered wage increase be mooted, or public officers who are servicing mortgages be exempted from additional and similar levies taxes so as to give relief to public officers and boost performance and delivery of services. Our second recommendation on this is a staggered implementation of the housing levy and possibly consider basing the levy on the basic salary rather than the gross salary. In a similar manner, the NSSF contributions were reformed. This would cushion employees from the adverse effects of the all-round increase in taxes and ensure that all employees are, in as much as possible, within the 1/3 net salary requirement. Co-chairs, the number of levies and the VAT imposed on fuel can also be reviewed so as to reduce the cost of fuel that has a ripple effect on the cost of living. Implementation of the 2/3 gender rule. The Commission does implement the 2/3 gender rule in all its appointments. Additionally, the Commission, while recommending persons for appointment, always provides a list that meets the 2/3 gender rule. The Commission is also developing an affirmative action paper that will translate into regulations that will be applicable within the public service, falling within the jurisdiction of the Public Service Commission. On this recommendation, co-chairs, the Commission proposes that an affirmative action framework in the form of legislation be developed and implemented to comply with the 2-thirds gender rule for appointive positions across the entire service. With regard to elective positions in Parliament, a provision similar to Article 177B of the Constitution should be adopted to fill up any gender shortfalls in both the National Assembly and the Senate, respectively. On governance issues, including promoting national unity and inclusivity in public appointments, the Commission does observe the provisions of Article 10 and 232 of the Constitution while appointing or recommending persons for appointment to positions in the public service. Recommendation on this: it is our view as a Commission that there are adequate constitutional and statutory safeguards that provide for inclusivity. The conversation that the country should therefore be having is on how to ensure compliance by all appointing authorities. There is therefore need for parliamentary oversight through receipt of an annual recruitment report that is in the nature of a human resource audit report for all appointing authorities. This would enable Parliament to impose such sanctions for non-compliance with the constitutional and statutory provisions on inclusivity. In conclusion, Honourable Chairs, Co-Chairs, the Commission supports the national dialogue and hopes that the results of the dialogue will improve the welfare of public officers, leading to an efficient and effective public service that delivers services to the citizens of Kenya as expected. Thank you for listening. To the Public Service Commission, I beg to submit.
Thank you, Commissioner Mushiri and your legal director. Maybe just a quick one from me. You have enumerated data on the public servants, and you actually contend that a number of them are earning below a third of their basic salary as their take home. And you are proposing either a review of the tax regime or a considered wage increase to be mooted. From where you sit as the chair of the Public Service Commission, how would we be able to strike a balance between increments of wages, especially for public officers, and what has been seen as a bloated civil service? Not both at the national government level and at the county government's level. How can we increase the earnings of public servants and also deal with what is politically a hot potato, like having to rationalize the staff establishment at all levels of government?
Okay. Can I go? Ambassador Wanjiri.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the work you're trying to do with Public Service Commission. I'll ask you a subjective question. How independent is a Public Service Commission? Your recent appointment of so many vice chancellors, for example, where the commission was given a list and told to abide by it, doesn't that embarrass you? And do you render correct advice to the appointing authorities? Number two, how often do you make a report to Parliament on the very critical issue of inclusivity? Again, I refer you to the recent recruitment at the Kenya Revenue Authority, where clearly you're saying there's sufficient safeguards in law, and indeed there are, and you say the conversation we should be having is whether there's compliance. Some of these are embarrassing. We want a nation where every Kenyan belongs. The recent conversation we've had in the country is whether there are Kenyans or Kenya comprises a community of stakeholders and non-stakeholders. and although all of them pay heavily when it comes to the levies. Then thirdly, that a lot of your public officers are having negative pay slips, particularly the police force. Wanaongezwa pesa 4,000 kwa upande moja, kwa njia moja na ingine inapotea, and they are actually negative. No wonder that a lot of them have gone for counseling. Therefore, this issue, and thank you for this very clear presentation. You're calling a spade a spade. We have a problem. And you're even recommending that we don't implement the housing levy immediately. We need to do something about it. But you know, yet our friends on Kenya Kwanza insist this is their government. They should be allowed to deal with it the best way they can, and the opposition should then be shouting or something like that. I think that this memorandum is critical, and I congratulate you for being very bold about it, and I think Kenyans should stand guided.
Thank you, Opio. Thank you. Very, very briefly, as usual. I just want to understand from where you sit, Ambassador Mshiri, because the lingering question of imbalances in employment, both in terms of geographical areas, ethnicity, and so on. Your commission is supposed to play a role in addressing such imbalances. But apparently, there are instances where public institutions have gone ahead to defy you, and in fact could be recruiting without your authority. How would you say about that? But secondly, these rampant cases of public servants or civil servants earning less than a third of their basic salary as a result of the very, very many taxes that have been imposed on them, including the housing levy. From where you sit, does this go against law? Is there a law that provides for that one-third rule on basic salary? Okay, thank you.
Maybe, Ambassador, you will confirm to avoid the Honorable Opio and I, for obvious reasons, putting words in your mouth, whether those public officers who may be taking a third or less home of their basic pay are doing so on account of any tax measures, recent tax measures, or is a situation that persisted even before the tax measures. And that I believe you would have empirical evidence to show, for instance, that when you increase VAT from 8 to 16% on fuel, a policeman who was earning, taking home 20,000 shillings is now taking home 15,000. That kind of empirical evidence, so that we avoid also driving narratives that may not necessarily help us. Because I think from your presentation, my reading, and I'm trying to be, unlike my co-chair who has said he's asking you a subjective question, I'm endeavoring to be as objective as I can be. Because I know for a fact, many Kenyans, not just public officers, take home less than a third, largely on account of loans, including members of parliament, and I can confirm, including myself. I take home less than a third, but on account of a mortgage, of a car loan I have taken, and other loans, circle loans and all that. So I would want to hear that, and that's why I noted the increment of wages, because I would not mind also an increment. Senator Omar?
And also I just like Kimani Shungwa.
I'd like to know, where has this co-chair been getting this money, has been paying for us with a negative pay slip?
Your Excellency, on a very serious note, I stopped depending on a paid salary 8 years after campus.
And
I am a very serious businessman.
I also earn less than 1/3 of my pay slip. So we are many of us, and and for me it's for me I just want to make two observations, two quick interventions. One, which I think, building on what Kimani, Co-Chair Kimani said, there is no impression that should be created whatsoever that we are fearful or lethargic as Kenya Kwanza to any candid report by government in terms of helping us to improve on our mandate and in operations of government. In fact, that's why you are independent commissions. As an auditor on human resource, there's an auditor on human rights, there's an auditor on financing. All these reports, harsh as they might seem, help the governance process. So we want to listen. An impression was created in the previous sitting that we were not for discussing the cost of living. In fact, we admitted the cost of living debate even when it was not agreed upon earlier by the two principals as one of the issues that we need to discuss here. So we are here to dialogue, and that's why we are seated here from dawn to dusk. Number two, again another comment. I don't know when you understand Jackie. Jackie was my college mate. When you understand the Constitution holistically, and I keep saying this, there is a way in which you must look for resources to fund social justice. Social justice is an extremely radical preposition to make those who are worse off better off, because before those who are better off become well off, not just for those who are better off to become better off and better off and better off. So to impose a 1% or 1.5% tax levy to build houses for those most vulnerable, to actually implement programs around universal health care under Article 43 is part of the requirement of social justice. That those who are well off, kidogo, uko na kidogo zaidi, to help those who are worse off, wale ambao hawana kabisa, before you also become better off with them. That's the whole idea. So that's the context also I wanted to you as you navigate your public service, to understand where sometimes would you look for the limited resources to fund these programs of dignity.
Any other?
Yes.
You know you are Omar's compatriot.
Yes, my good friend. Today very brave.
Just as you left, I saw you had said the media that we are selling mail.
No.
It was here yesterday.
Yes, we were actually on the cost of living issue.
So allow you, ignore Omar, just go straight to your questions. And Omogeni to close for us.
I'll start on the cost of living issue. I think what Senator Omar is referring to. I was in Nzoia yesterday and the farmers are very, very worried.
Eugene, we said what we say in rallies, including what I said in Kericho yesterday, we leave them in rallies. Omar, I will protect Eugene from those.
Thank you very, very much. So the cost of living issue is one of the top issues in this dialogue, and the issue of electoral justice. Looking at your presentation, may I say you have greatly enriched our dialogue. When we started, actually, some of these areas like cost of living were no-go zones, opening of servers were no-go zones, but we're getting ideas, better and better ideas, so that by the close of our public hearings tomorrow, this committee will be better off to make recommendations. So I just want to thank you very, very much. Your colleagues from Kipra who are here, and they had told us, I think it was on page 2 of their presentation, a very sobering reality. And I agree with Omar that it's very good that the independent commission should be able to advise independently, objectively, whether it's good news for government or not. And they have said that while the minimum wage increased by 12% in 2022, essential goods and services rose by 22%. They're making ends meet for many Kenyans, and Kenyan with our payslip is an endangered species. I'm happy that you have addressed some of the issues, like the issue of the housing levy. At first we heard it was on the basic, then we heard it was gross. So it's one area that every Kenyan with a payslip is feeling the heat. The other issue that you have, that will greatly enrich our recommendations is the issue of the levies and taxes. I promised Senator Omar I will not repeat all the 16 levies because there are quite a number on fuel, about 16. When you go to the tokens, electricity, there are about 8. And all this is taking away the little disposable income from every family. They're feeling the pinch. Therefore, your recommendation that we can actually review this tax regime is a very, very solid recommendation. I want to thank you for that. And lastly, I think I'll leave it at that because of time. And I just thank you for your very, very solid recommendation. Thank you.
Yes, first, Commissioner, Chairman Mushiri, I think we are one of the most patriotic Kenyans because your paper is very candid and you have presented the situation as it is. Really, these are big kudos to you. And I just want to understand, as a key stakeholder, you know the issues you are saying border on national security. They are serious issues. It worries when I read that in the disciplined forces, out of 106,000 officers, 51.7% earn less than a third of their basic salary. And that includes even officers serving in prison. I mean, that is something that any government cannot ignore. Now my question is, as a key stakeholder, and we are all here parliamentarians, did you get a chance to make a presentation before Parliament when we were dealing with the finance bill on issues of taxation, so that we cushion these Kenyans that play a very critical role, but who seem to be choking under serious taxation and the levies from the government of the day? Because it worries me, honestly, and anybody in government should be worried if this is the prevailing situation. Because a bank will not care about increase of taxes. The worst they can do is to come for your property auction. We have had cases of officers in the disciplined forces committing suicide. You know? So did you ever make such a presentation to Parliament when we were considering the finance bills? Number two, you play a critical role in promoting values and principles under Article 10 of the Constitution. And I'm also from one of the marginalized, so-called marginalized communities. I don't want to repeat the question on KRA that the former Vice President has asked, but I want to ask a specific question. This issue around national unity, inclusivity. When you make proposal for appointment of some of the key state officers, like principal secretaries, do you take into account the need to ensure that all the 43 tribes are represented? Because out of the 56 principal secretaries, for example, we had people from Mount Elgon, Sabwat, they say they are not represented. The Kisis are not represented. You know, we have communities that have over 16 representation in principal secretaries. So is it that your recommendations are ignored, or you are the one, it's the commission that is breaching the national values under Article 10? Because we're having a conversation, we want to get a solution. Is the blame on PSC when you do interviews, do ranking, or the problem is with the appointing authority? Thank you.
Chungwa. Thank you. I'm trying to. Yes, Aaron.
Thank you, Chair. I have one question and a comment. I must appreciate, you know, I had earlier, I think it was His Excellency who asked a question, how independent the Commission is. I think their presentation is testament to their independence. I can't imagine another administration that would have allowed a member of an institution that is a government agency to bring such a presentation. Anyway, just to the more difficult questions about is number one, there is also a misleading narrative that I see being weaved. And unfortunately, you aided it. And therefore, my colleagues took cue from your presentation, which I want to vehemently disagree. Taxes are paid by all Kenyans, those who work and those who don't work. Therefore, the question that we need to ask you is, which are these taxes that are deducted from an employed person that leads them to earn less than a third of their pay? Because basically, if you push that argument, it means that there are taxes that have been introduced that are upwards of 60, that takes upwards of 60, two-thirds of your salaries, 67%. Will you mind then giving that breakdown for us to appreciate? Because the rest of the Kenyans, all of us, those that are employed and unemployed, they pay taxes. But to sustain the narrative that is being weaved in your presentation, that the only reason why people are earning a third of their pay is because of taxation, then justify for me to appreciate where is this 67% going. Apart from payee at 30%, what are these other taxes? Because even what is being described, housing levy and the rest, they cannot account for more than 5%. Finally, Chair, is just to guide that not everything that is said in this forum is accurate. Therefore, my colleague, like Senator Mugeni, I heard your last comment. It's not true what people say. The Sabouts came here and they said they don't have a PS. I'll tell you for a fact. The PS for health is called Hari Kimutai. It's a Sabaut. So people come here and say all manner of things, but it's not everything that is factual. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and that's why I did indicate to Ambassador Mushiri to be factual, even on those tax elements, to avoid those narratives. Honorable Amina, the last one.
Thank you, Chair. My question will be on the bloated wage bill. As we all know, the wage bill has an effect on the cost of living and on the taxes. So my question to the Commission is, what are you doing about this crisis? Like, what's your take? Do we have many employees that we can't afford as a country? Or what's your take on that? Thank you.
Okay, Ambassador.
Thank you, Honorable Co-Chairs, and I really appreciate those questions. I'll start and end. I'll end with the bloated wage bill, which is what Honorable Ishungu asked, and Honorable Amina just finished with it. I'll take that as the last one. But I'll go to Co-Chair Kalonzo Musyoka when he talked about the independence of the Public Service Commission. And I'm glad that his colleagues really did assert our independence, as Honorable Pio, Honorable Amalwa, and Honorable Omogeni. When we serve Articles 210 and 232 of the Constitution as a Public Service Commission, when we advertise for positions of the Vice Chancellors, we are provided by an intent by the councils of respective universities. We do a competitive recruitment through advertisements, we do a shortlist, and we interview and give the names in order of ranking to the councils of the universities to pick out these people. So I would not understand at what point of time there is a list that is given to the Commission of who to appoint. If you observe our recent appointments, they were very balanced in nature and went through this competitive recruitment. Honorable Co-Chairs, the issue of recruitment, more so what has been asked in KRA and other entities like police force. We have different employing entities. We don't employ in KRA. They have a board that employs. The only time we come in such employments in public services, especially state corporations, is when we provide the document that we call compliance on Article 10 and 232 of the Constitution. This is a document that we provide to Parliament and to the President every year on 30th December. PSC does not have enforcement measures or sanctionary measures to uphold violation of Article 10 and 232. That is within the ambit of the National Assembly and the Presidency. So when we have entities like the National Police Service Commission, the Teacher Service Commission, those are the ones who do their own employment. PSC just does employment within the service. But we do oversight in terms of Article 10 and 232 by providing that information. Chair, on the issue of the taxation. When you get a payslip and you get a pay at the end of the month, and I believe this was misconstrued, what you do with that payslip is up to you. Whether you want to subject it to zero, that's up to you. So the information we have here, this 1/3 has been progressive from time immemorial. I can't remember, I've worked in the civil service for 39 years. I can't remember a time I've been above 1/3. Because every time you finish servicing your mortgage, your car loan, your furniture, circle, you name it, you take another one. So you'll always, you take another one to go and buy chicken, to rear chickens, etc. So you'll always live in that borderline. I would find somebody who lives above that borderline either to be dealing in some untoward illegal behavior. Because if you are really subjecting your payslip to those deductions, then you are leading an honest life. So, Chair, when the issue of taxes and levies to come in, when the housing levy came in, those payslips were already at 1/3. The housing levy did not increase. Our recommendation was to maybe mitigate, either put the housing levy on the basic salary or progressively increase it. But we did not say that the housing levy should be done away with. Those are our recommendations sitting at the Public Service Commission. On the issues...
Ambassador, on a light note, that is a risk you run into when you are dealing with two opposing sides of the political class. We will want to put words in your mouth that will favor our respective positions. But go ahead.
I do understand, Chair. Honorable Kalonzo has been also in government.
You know, you've been my ambassador, you know, into Libya.
Yeah, exactly.
And you saw a chaotic nation and come out of conflict. Now, when you are there, it was a better country.
Yes.
Now, what remains of Libya? We're trying to avoid that situation in this country. And you, Ambassador Muchiri, know, you know the importance of that.
I hear you, Honorable Kalonzo. Honorable Chairs, I think on the issue of the wage bill, Honorable Co-Chairs, of course the wage bill has increased exponentially, more so when we got into, the Kenyans decided that we are going to have a devolved government. And the issue of HR, it just became chaotic. My colleague here will mention of a county that we went to do a human resource audit and found that out of almost 1,000 people who had been employed, 980 were employed illegally without due process. So that cuts across all the counties. And that has increased the wage bill. But if I confine myself to the Public Service Commission, I would say that our wage bill is not bloated. Why would I say that? Because right now, virtually every ministry is unestablished. And we cannot maximize or optimize the establishment in terms of human resource personnel because there is no money. Normally when we are employing as a Public Service Commission, when ministries and agencies send their indents, we cannot recruit without a letter from Treasury. So the domicile entity that would really be able to answer this question is the Treasury, because they're the ones who provide the funds to employ. We cannot recruit, we cannot advertise, we cannot employ if the Treasury has not given a green light. But all ministries as we stand today are established, and there is that serious issue in the effective delivery of services.
All right.
I'll just give Jackie to respond to one or two related to Honorable Chergai and Omar.
This is
Cheriot. Oh, sorry, Cheriot. Apologies. My apologies. I know everybody here.
Cherargay is yet to come with the stamp limits.
My apologies.
Cherargay is another one.
Thank you, Chair. Just to add on to something the Chair has talked about KRA. Yeah, on the issue of state corporations and how they recruit, they both have the independence to recruit. However, the Commission has a constitutional mandate to investigate, monitor, and evaluate the organization, administration, and personnel practices of the public service. Yes. So the Commission is able to do that, and we are trying to look at how we are able to do that for all state corporations, because there are quite a number. And so with time now, our annual reports on the work the Commission does, because there are two sets of reports that the Commission presents to Parliament. There's the annual report on the work of the Commission, and then there's the annual values report. So with time, our annual report on the work of the Commission would be able to then come out with some of these things that maybe are outliers, like recruitments that may not be very balanced. So that is provided for in our mandate as the Public Service Commission. On what my...
Sorry, how is it on the principal secretaries? How is the picture like?
In terms of the balance?
The national outlook.
Yes, as the Chair said, the Commission is not the appointing authority for PSs. The Commission undertakes a recruitment process and forwards names for persons to be recruited. If you looked at the shortlist that was published in the newspaper, you could see those balance in terms of the entire country was properly represented in the shortlist that the Commission published in the newspaper. Beyond there, unless the Chair can respond on that.
Well, I think that is a question that should be subjected to the appointing authority. We are just the employing entity.
Yeah, thank you.
Fair enough, as least balance
yes.
at the point when you are doing the recruitment.
Yes.
Fair enough.
We do that, yeah.
So that you also, the appointing authority, by the time you are submitting a list to the appointing authority, based on some balance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. And in response to my college mate, Honorable Hassan Omar, yes, I do agree that the government has a responsibility to provide social rights, including housing, healthcare, and so on and so forth. However, in the process of doing that, I do not think that it's in the interest of the government to, at the point of pulling others, to take others down. No. Yeah, so that what the Commission's concern is that at the time you're bringing in the housing levy and other taxes, already the public officer's payslip is below a third. So when you bring in the housing levy on gross salary, it makes the situation even worse. It's not that the taxes and the housing levy are what cost, and I'll combine that with the Senator Cheriot's question. It's not that the taxes and the levies cost officers to earn 1/3. It's that by the time these taxes and levies come in, already officers are earning less than 1/3. So that it would be perhaps, in terms of just looking at fairness and having some sympathy and empathy on public officers and perhaps even officers in the private sector, that you could base that levy on a basic salary rather than on gross salary. So that at the point while you try to pull people up, you're not bringing many more to come to that lower level where you're trying to pull people up from. So that's basically what the Commission's presentation is trying to say, and I believe I've addressed both. It is not the levies and the taxes that hire. Yeah.
Mine is very simple. I'm just happy that I finally get to meet Ambassador Mushiri. He's been very supportive to me on my own public service issues, giving me guidelines on what needs to be done. And I appreciate that because we only talked on phone several occasions, and I'm happy to finally meet you. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor says. We must allow me also to commend you for consulting. So we are now certain that the county that the director was referring to is definitely not Embu County. And encourage other governors to work with the Public Service Commission because they would guide them on how to recruit staff in a balanced way and without doing it outside of the law. Thank you, Ambassador and Director. We will now invite the Chamus community. I am told Commissioner Letangule, you are the one leading. We will. Yes. IBC.
About what?
Yeah, I saw that.
So, Commissioner Letangule, karibu. I am told you had a very long article in the papers yesterday.
Yes.
We will kindly request you not to take us through the article on a light note. Be very brief. We are, for lack of a better word, stealing time for you from other groups who are waiting. So we'll restrict to what we had agreed off cap to strictly 10 minutes.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, co-chairs, for giving us this opportunity. I want to confirm that looks like this committee, they've not even been given water. So I think we want to appeal to those who fund these people, at least to provide them with basics. Having said that, I want to give the committee some of these documents, just so that we are at one page. Those guys must stand. Do they have this? Oh, okay.
Let them be.
Yeah.
I agree.
Honorable members, co-chairs, before you are members of the Chamus community from Baringo County. I'm a lawyer of the High Court of Kenya, representing them in several cases, so I'm here in that capacity, and also in the capacity as a member of the Chamus community. We have submitted a petition to this honorable committee, and we have a lot of faith in this committee that finally our matters can be heard and be implemented. Now, honorable members, in the interest of time, I will go through the issues very fast. We have submitted only 3 issues to this committee. And our issues are only 3. And all of them have ended up in the High Court. And judgments given in favor. Number 1, honorable members, the Chamus community is a community residing in Baringo County. It's an indigenous community speaking Ma, as you can see from my standing morans behind me. This community in the 2019 census were counted to be more than 30,000. I think now we are about 50,000. With a voting block of more than 10,000 votes. We reside in Baringo South currently. Baringo South has about 25,000 votes, and the Chamus people have 10,000 of those votes. The rest are for the Tugen community, who are our neighbors. Now, it has been very disadvantageous for this community over time because of lack of representation. I think it is the only community in Kenya which has no representative in parliament, whether nominated or elected. And the reason we are here is to petition this committee to finally see how the Chamus can get a constituency of their own for effective representation. We face a number of challenges. For example, we are the ones constantly under attack of our neighbors, the Pokot banditry, where they have taken most of our cows and resources, yet we cannot have a voice to raise these issues at the national level. So, our first request is to see how, in the next review of boundaries, this community can be represented. And attached to my document is an order issued by the High Court in 2017. It's attached. It's a High Court order. And if you allow me, I will just go to certain specific orders issued by the High Court. One, they said, and this is the three-judge judgment of the High Court, and I will read order number 5, which they said, in the event of any future constituencies being created by an act of parliament or any other review being undertaken, the Chamus claim be processed by the Electoral Commission of Kenya with the criteria herein in view. In this regard, we hereby declare that reasonable departure from the normal creation of boundaries be departed with in order to enable the Chamus to be represented. In other words, what the High Court was saying in 2006 is that let us depart from the usual criteria to give these people a chance to be represented. And they wrote almost 500 pages judgment, which I was not able to attach, giving the reasons why this community must be considered. And so I've just attached the court order. We have not been able to implement because the current constitution provides for minimum population in a constituency, and they said minimum is 79,000. The Chamus cannot reach there. And the High Court was alive to this. And so they said, depart from the normal criteria to enable effective representation of the Chamus. I want to ask this committee, as you write your report, kindly see how you can accommodate the Chamus people to finally be able to be represented at the national level. So I have attached that order. Issue number 2 is the issue of effects of climate change. Honorable members, I would even ask you to visit Baringo. Something very phenomenal has happened there. The waters of the lake rose up, and the effect is that the two lakes are about to merge, Lake Baringo and Lake Bogoria. Actually, the difference is about now 2 kilometers apart, if I'm not wrong, between the two lakes. And one lake is salty, Lake Baringo is a freshwater lake. Now, a phenomenon has happened. The water is rising. These were areas where the Chamus people live. Now, these people have been completely displaced by the water. That land has become government land by virtue of it now being a lake. Now, what happens to these people? That is why we say a special kitty must be established to compensate people who have been moved, not by their own willingness, but by the effects of this climate change. And they have been moved away from their lands, their ancestral lands. So I appeal that through this committee, we see how these people can be compensated for the losses they have incurred. Now, again, my third issue and final one is the issue of Proceedings plant. This goes together with the issue of climate change, but it's very distinct because this plant called Madenge, it was named after the officer who introduced it in Baringo. I wish I can meet that Madenge to just give a slap. Now,
is that allowed?
Absolutely out of order.
It is because of the pain.
We also know that, in fact, the community got one of the goats, some goats sued this Madenge.
Yes, I was the lawyer on record.
Yeah.
I brought a goat, live goat, to court because the judges were not understanding what I'm talking about.
Okay.
The effect is that this Proceedings, the moment the goat eats the plant, it's sugary, so ultimately all the teeth fall out, so the goat is unable to eat anymore and they die. So this plant was brought in and it really took over the entire area. If you look at the pictures I have annexed to this report, it is a plant which grows even without water. It was brought from South America. And this plant now has submerged the entire area, coupled with the rising lake, which has taken all the homes. coupled with now no goats anymore, no cows. You will see a very sad story here where our children are now going to school with canoes because you see the whole land has been submerged by water. So, honorable members, my presentation, and I have attached a court order again on the environment, and I wish you this committee can recommend the implementation of this court order. And one of the orders was that this plant has destroyed livelihoods. And it's not only in Chamus. I think it's an issue which you can address conclusively all over. In fact, the current president, Honorable William Ruto, is the one, when he was Minister for Agriculture, declared this plant noxious in the Gazette. And you can see from this order, it's a lengthy order, but I want to just point order number N. It's where the court made specific that we form a commission to assess the damage caused by, a technical commission be formed, a national commission, which will address the issues of this Proceedings, so that this commission will report to the country and assess the damage caused by this plant, assess the cost of damage, loss of lives, loss of animals, and report adequate compensation or any other matters which can be dealt with. This plant is a national crisis. When I talk to you, I'm not just talking about Chamus. This plant is a national crisis. The country must wake up to the disaster this plant has brought. It is not only in Chamus, it is in Tana River, I don't know where else, Garissa, I think. Yeah. It is a dangerous plant, and we need a conversation in the country what we do with this plant. I don't know who brought it, but it has caused a lot of havoc. So I want to end there and allow one of my members just a short...
Yes, indeed, and I want you, Commissioner Tangule, to know you've already taken your 10 minutes, but we will hear, Madam, if it can be, you can be very precise, because we had to slot you in, although you're not in our programs. And as we slot you in, Commissioner Tangule, could you be specific? What would you want this committee to do? Because we are not a boundaries in the electoral, not boundaries commission, for example. We see it's a petition. Or the only thing we can do is make recommendation, but we want it to be very explicit, because we understand. I have a family of the Kekimons who are very close to me, and I know how they've been affected living between Lake Bogoria and Lake Baringo.
Thank you, Your Excellency. If you allow, maybe perhaps the lady could speak by way of answering, because I've got something to clarify also.
Okay.
Yes.
Let Madam, you will answer after that. Let her make her comments, and then we open the floor. We'll open the floor to fellow committee members.
Mwenyekiti, kamati wako hapa pamoja na sisi. Kwa majina mimi ni Caroline Lesaya, nominated MCA UDA party from Baringo County, Baringo South and Chamus community.
Your chairman, who is a member of this committee, is obviously out of order.
Yeah, I'm very sorry, but I was just want to introduce myself.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah. You have an executive
I am just congratulating you because you belong to my party.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So she's gone absolutely partisan, but we understand.
Mwenyekiti, I'm very sorry. Ombi langu mwenyekiti kama ya Chamus community ni kuomba eneo la bunge. Tangu tupate uhuru 1963 up to date hatujai ingia bunge la kitaifa. Hiyo ndio ombi kubwa tuko nayo, kwa sababu nikiongea hivi community ya Chamus tumepitia mengi machungu sana. Yale yamesokwa na lawyer Ndagule ni hivyo kabisa venye imesema, tumepitia machungu kama community. Sasa tunaomba leo kwa hii committee na tunaomba kwa unyenyekevu ili tuwasaidie ama mtupe hiyo nafasi ili tusikike na shida zetu ipatikane kujulikana, tupate eneo bunge la Baringo kwa Baringo County.
We hear you, Madam, nominated MCA. Now we'll ask very quickly one comment. Mheshimiwa
in half a minute
will ask a question or comment.
Yeah, let me confess that I've been very sympathetic to the cause of the Chamus people, having gone through their stories over time. And if you have got a friend, then it's me. But let me say this. before I proceed, I can see my friend, the Honorable Mpurken, in your delegation. And yet he has been an MP in Laikipia North previously. Is he a friend of the Chamus or is he a Chamus? Just by the way. Just not. Two, and more importantly, Wakili, this order, which was issued way back in July 2007, I think in the old constitutional dispensation, was so explicit, so clear, so unambiguous. In fact, order number 5, which was actually decreeing some sort of affirmative action in as far as the Chamus community is concerned. And the court was very clear that in the subsequent boundaries review, the Chamus should be considered for a constituency. My question is, did you seek to enforce this order by way of serving a decree on the successor to the ECK, which is the IBC? Yes, I don't know. The IBC, as presently constituted or decided, is the successor to the then ECK. And therefore it was under a constitutional and legal obligation to enforce or to implement this court order, which was never vacated or varied in any way from what I have on record. Just clarify that.
I think the issue of Bomas was also taken to the African Court of Justice.
Yeah.
They really prosecuted this matter far and wide and got orders. So people are under obligation to do the right thing. So, Mheshimiwa Sisley?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, let me begin by saying that my heart really goes out to this community. They have their rights, I believe so, and I think it's time we had them. And I want to thank you for your courage to be able to come here and speak out and speak for the people that you've left behind. Now, even as we try to look for our own way of supporting you as a committee, I think you have a serious issue of climate change effects on an impact on your community. And I strongly feel that you need a sitting with the Ministry of Environment through the CS Soipan. And I wish to undertake to help out to make sure that you get a chance to sit down with her. Because I know the ministry has taken climate change very, very seriously. I know there's a lot of resources, not necessarily in the ministry, but across the world around the livelihoods and issues of climate change. So I'll be happy, Commissioner Letangule, to offer that support of making sure you have a sitting with the CS, who I'm sure will definitely come to the rescue of the community. That would be a great opportunity.
Thank you. And I think with that, we want to say thank you for coming to see us. We will do our bit, however small, as a committee. Thank you. You want to respond?
Just your question on how to implement.
Yeah.
Thank you very much once again for this committee, and thank you so much for being sympathetic with our cause. I can see it from Governor Sisley and Honorable Wandai. I think we seem to be sorted. We'll take the offer. We'll ask you once we move out, please be with us.
Yes.
Because
No, I want to take it up with Cecily on that note. It's not going to be an easy matter. There's plenty of funding in the area of climate change, and this community needs to get money on the ground to help them, because watoto hawezi kwenda shule, watoto kwa mashua jameni, like Baringo, the hotels there sank. It's a complete disaster, and I think we should use this as a country to illustrate that we can actually benefit from climate funding. So let's IPAN, the CS, be able to take this matter strong.
On the issue of how to implement, we have Article 100 in our current constitution. I think it will be the recommendation of this committee. Article 100 specifically talks about how marginalized and ethnic minorities can be represented. I think if this article is operationalized by way of recommendation from this committee, with specific affirmative action for communities like us, I think we can finally get some help in terms of representation. at the national level. Therefore, we thank you for hearing us, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Wakili and the delegation of the Chamus community. All the best.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we still have others, or that's it for the day?
I'm told Senator Gender is in the House. Senator Gender, we had given him a slot, but he can only come for 5 minutes.
Do we still have others, or that's it for the day?
I think that's all for the Senate now.
No, for the day. No, the day.
The day is still long.
Oh.
Yes. Still long. Look, let's finish. Senator Ojenda, I know you know all of us. Yes. So in the interest of time, we shall not go do introductions. Kindly go straight to your issues, and we have got no more than 5 minutes. Please, bear with us.
Thank you, Chair. I will summarize my presentations so that the 5-minute period does not lapse if I finish. Chair, this is a presentation pursuant to your call for submissions, and it is a presentation that seeks that this committee, pursuant to the powers granted to it, when making recommendations on constitutional amendments, that you revisit the provisions of Articles 94, 95, and 96 of the Constitution, and the power relations between the Senate and the National Assembly. These provisions speak to the necessary changes. Mr. Chair, the provisions of Articles 93 to 96 of the Constitution, which concern the establishment of Parliament, creates the two houses, often referred to as Parliament, the National Assembly, and the Senate. But there is a grave power imbalance which has created, not only in my view, a miscarriage of justice, that which seems to relegate the Senate to the National Assembly, yet senators are elected by constituencies, many constituencies, or represent the interests of 47 counties, while the National Assembly represents the interests of sub-counties or constituencies. Clearly, in terms of the power frame and the shift, the Senate should be the upper house. And I will demonstrate briefly, Chair, why the framing of Articles 94, 93, 94, 95, 96, as relates to even the powers of originating bills under Articles 110 to 113, should be reframed so that Senate considers every bill emanating from the National Assembly. In all representative democracies, Mr. Chair, where Senate is elected, I give you the example of the US, where we have Senate and the House of Representatives. Senate 1 has a longer term of 6 years. The House of Representatives has a term of only 2 years to the next election. There must be a formula for compensation of senators who traverse diverse counties to campaign or to be elected. Yet, when they're elected, they are equated to members of the National Assembly elected in single-member constituencies. Chair, that is summarized in my memoranda, paragraphs 10 to 14. Then I go to the question even of the manner that the Parliamentary Service Commission has treated senators. Senators are given the same allocation as members of the National Assembly, ignoring the fact that senators have to traverse the very sub-counties that members of parliament represent. Now, we are equated to one member of a sub-county when the PAC allocates funds for running offices. The senator is only enabled to establish one office. A very unfair process, Mr. Chair. So, membership responsibility, and because there are 2 cases in court, Mr. Chair, on this question, we have litigated previously division of revenue before the Supreme Court. I appeared for Senate then. Now we have a live case before the Supreme Court on the question of exercise of powers under Article 113 and whether all bills emanating from the national, so here we're dealing with over 23 bills, should as a consequence be enacted or approved by Senate. I think the right way to go is for this committee to recommend when reviewing the Constitution that Senate as a superior house should give a stamp of authority to every bill enacted by the National Assembly. If I go to the comparative, let me go to Canada. I've tried the US. Even in Canada, the Senate is again a superior organ. In the UK, where the Lords are called into membership, of course the House of Lords is not as strong as the lower house, but because they are nominated. So where you have a system where senators are elected, I think create a strong Senate. Give senior members like yourself a chance to vie for Senate instead of going back to the National Assembly, and give Senate the requisite authority that it ought to have, so that in representative democracy like this, we have a Senate that then stamps authority. If you look at the functions, even impeachments, the Constitution has, in a sense, created a grave imbalance. Origination of money bills, a grave imbalance. And remuneration unjustified equity. It is unjustifiable that a member doing more work is remunerated less because you have a wider area to cover, you have more people to cover, you spend more resources when campaigning, you spend more resources on a daily basis because you have a wide coverage, and yet you're treated as though you belong to a single constituency. I think these are some of the things that need to be addressed. Now, on the, if I look at even the history of this country, this is because I'm a researcher, under the independent constitution, when we had 40 districts and a number of senators, Section 34 of the Constitution then defined representation then. Even if we go back to the spirit of that Constitution, the intention in the representation was to create a bicameral system that gave more power to Senate. And I think it is important that we go back there. I know that our system is mongrel. I know that this committee is entirely toying with the idea of having a leader of opposition, and we have a leader of minority. I think the leader of minority in the National Assembly.
We think, or you know, Professor?
No, I know. I know that that idea is on course. Yet we have adopted a presidential system. When you have a presidential system, and you want to slide into a mongrel system where you want to pick half parliamentary and creep presidential, then you have a tough challenge in terms of law, because then you have a framework. Your framework will not sit in with the presidential system that we have adopted. Because then if you, technically, you are the leader of opposition sitting in parliament, because a leader of opposition as contemplated in the parliamentary system is one who would sit in parliament and respond to the queen or the king then, to the, not queen or queen, to the head of, to the prime minister, answering on the part of government. Then the opposition leader would then respond on parliamentary questions or all questions. Now our system is unique, and I think that this committee has a challenge of trying to craft a process or a unique framework that will go off balance the presidential system that we have, and perhaps try and stray into a measure or have a cut of the parliamentary system, which is a tough task that you have before you. So Chair, I plead that as you go through that process, and I'll share my experiences. The US system, the Canadian system, all favor a strong Senate.
Well said, Professor. Very well said. I think since you don't have your memorandum, you will share it with us.
I have several copies of the
Yes,
memorandum.
please. And we are also guided that actually it was the intention of the Bomas then that the Senate would be the upper house. That the issue was interfered with at Naivasha.
So maybe that's food for thought. We could, as a committee, of course, when we retreat, look at the issues you have canvassed. And for saying that a lot is banning.
Yeah, just a quick comment, Chair, to Senator Professor Ojenda, is that he has many friends of the committee who agree with him on the things that he's canvassing, and it's a travesty of justice that SLC has never seen that to be unfortunate, and to allow that situation to be obtaining for more than 10 years is not something that perhaps can be wished away for far too long. I think it's part of the greater inequality that you're talking about, including actually overally in the entire society. So you're on the right track, Prof.
Thank you.
Prof, if I can, Prof. Prof was my teacher in school in Moi University. Prof, without a doubt, I was there when the Senate was being established. And all these were some of the discussions we had. I was in the first local Senate. And honestly speaking, one of the reasons I thought that it was not viable to be elected back into Senate was some of those structural changes that you're alluding to. That you are elected with a wider footprint and then put into almost a box of inertia. But the truth is, part of these discussions came up when the counterparts of Obio and I were in the National Assembly said that if we were to have a salary differential, then it means in the order of packing order of business, the more the salary you have means your stature is higher. So therefore that will distinct a senator as having a higher cadre. In fact, even the salaries of the National Assembly Speaker, I remember then the National Assembly argued that even if it is to differentiate the Speaker as number 3, just by having an extra 1,000 shillings, so that it is clear that who is the most senior Speaker. So I think we had so much sibling rivalry at that point. But the Senate at that time had the stage of certain key leaders. If you look at the first Senate, all of us looked at the Senate of the Obama ilk or making. So that's why you saw a lot of former ministers, former attorney generals, former all that came into the Senate. I totally share that sentiment. That Senate must be the upper house if this constitution is to be reasonable in terms of its mandate and in terms of its structure.
Thank you. Maybe just in one sentence, when all is said and done, and we make the changes as a country, of course, you are proposing. In your view, would this require a referendum or not? Just in one sentence.
Automatically, 256, 257, definitely a referendum is required. I know that will be hard to achieve, but we are there. But Chair, imagine the Speaker of the Senate, the Speaker of the National Assembly, chairing the Parliamentary Service Commission. The Speaker of the Senate is nowhere. We are represented by 3 members as against 4. We are minority. We have no power to even do anything. It is unfair.
Chair, finally,
I think we are blessed to have a scholar appear before us, because he's really hit the nail on the head. Even the comparison on how you treat an elected senator and the House of Lords, it's a very good comparison. Even something I never thought about, the area where you campaign, and then, every amendment of a constitution, Chair, should address the difficulties a country has faced on implementation. The fact that we have a number of cases in courts touching on the relationship of National Assembly and Senate is enough food for thought that we need to relook on the relationship of the National Assembly and Senate in a bicameral house. So I think it's a good presentation, very good food for thought, and I hope this committee will take it up.
We shall definitely benefit immensely from your presentation, Professor Ojenda.
Yeah,
where is his memo, his memorandum?
I have shared, I just want to remind the Chair that I'm still a member of ODM, a live member. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Don't relevant, but thank you. Thank you very much.
Have you heard the DD memo?
And you don't have anything to say about Senate freedom?
Ojenda, as you go, being challenged by Senator Omar Hassan. than what is my personal view about the quest for Senate to be the upper house. Let me tell you, as a matter of principle, I agree with you. Totally. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Excuse me now.
Thank you, bro.
Which group is this now? Nzoia. Continue, tafadhali. Aya.
Professor, who is very well reasoned.
The Nzoia group.
That's good. Quickly, 1 minute.
Okay. Wacha waingie tu. Sini group moja. Mbona wengine wanatolewa? Okay, the leader, the team leader. Okay, thank you very much. Very quickly, we have Honorable Amina Abdallah from Malindi, the Honorable Waziri Eugene Wamalwa, the Honorable Senator Okongo Mugeni. Personally, I'm Opio Wandai. We have got Governor, Her Excellency Cecily Marire of Owebu County. Chairman.
Asante sana. Naitwa Bishop Martin Mafumbo. Natoka Nzoia County. Mimi ndio ninaongoza hii timu ambayo tumekuja nayo ya jamii zote za Nzoia, zaidi ya jamii 43 pamoja na wakilishi wengine. Kwa hivyo kabla tujaendelea, kuna ningetaka nikueleze kwamba wale tumekuja nao tuko na jamii 43, lakini kwa sababu ni wachache wamekubalika kuingia mahali hapa, chairman, kwanza ninakuheshimu pamoja na kamati yako.
Wengine wako humu,
wengine wako hapa nje.
Si wangesimama tu hapo nyuma.
Tuliambiwa wasikuje, kama wangeturuhusu ingekuwa ni vizuri sana.
At least because they are just for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Kama tu huko nyuma ndio wao pia wajisikie.
Tafadhali.
Wako Bomas.
Tafadhali chair. Thank you very much for that. Pigia chairman. So endelea ama tungoje?
Endelea tu.
Haya, asante. Hapa nimesema tuko na jamii 43 ambao ningetaka tafadhali chairman, wale wachache wako mahali hapa uniruhusu ni wa introduce. Nataka kabila zote 43 ambao mko mahali hapa, simameni. Simama tu wenye mko hapa. Chairman, hapa tuko na jamii mwakilishi wa Gema, ndio huyo hapa. Pale nyuma tuko na mwakilishi wa Somali, ndio yule pale. Pale tuna mwakilishi, nimengojea chairman amalize. Haya chairman, inaanza tena hapa. Mama, niko na mwakilishi wa Gema, anawakilisha jamii ya Gema Trans Nzoia County. Pale niko na jamii ya Wasomali, anawakilisha Wasomali Trans Nzoia County. Kaa chini. Pale niko na jamii ya Jaluo, anawakilisha jamii ya Jaluo kutoka Trans Nzoia County. Hapa chini kwanza kwa kabila. Hapa tuko na jamii ya Wamaragoli, anawakilisha jamii ya Wamaragoli kutoka Trans Nzoia County. Tuko na jamii ya Wakamba kutoka Trans Nzoia County, unaweza kuketi chini. Tuko na jamii ya Idaho kutoka Trans Nzoia County. Tuko na jamii ya Teso kutoka Trans Nzoia County, na tuko na jamii ya Wabukusu kutoka
Trans Nzoia County. Ndio vile mwenyekiti wa wafanyabiashara. Yes. Anawakilisha kila mtu.
Unaishi Kitale?
Naishi Kitale.
Trans Nzoia County.
Asante.
Alafu kule nyuma pia tuko na jamii ya Wabukusu kutoka Trans Nzoia County. Tuko na chairman ya Waturukana kutoka Trans Nzoia County, ndio yule mahali pale. Tuko na mwakilishi wetu pia anaitwa Kaburu kutoka katika jamii ya Wabukusu, na tuko na chairman wetu ambaye pia anawakilisha jamii ya Wanyala.
Marama.
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 Yes.
Very good.
So unaona tumekuja jamii yote. Alafu kikundi cha pili tuko na professionals. Simama, huyu anawakilisha professionals. Alafu pia tuko na professionals wako hapa. Alafu pia tuko na kikundi ya tatu ambao ni viongozi wa kidini kutoka Interreligious Council, dini zote kutoka Trans Nzoia. Mimi nikiwa katibu wao hapa. Alafu mama ndugu yangu, tuko na secretary ni Muislamu kutoka Islamic Faith. Alafu wa mwisho kabisa katika hiki kikundi ambayo tumekuja mbele zako bwana chairman, tuko na wale waliadhiriwa na mambo ya clashes ya mashamba, wakahamishwa kwa mashamba, ambao waliadhiriwa leo hawana mashamba, wanaishi kwa center, lakini shamba zao kuna watu wanaketi. Yuko hapa mwakilishi wao. Simama. Huyu mama hapa ni mwakilishi wa wale walihamishwa kutoka katika mashamba. Tumekuja na wao wako hapa, lakini ni mmoja. Through you chairman, kwa sababu mlikuwa umetuambia mtatupa 30 minutes.
Hapana. Mungu dakika 20, lakini endelea. Endelea tu. Yeah.
Nilikuwa nataka alafu nimesahau. Tafadhali nisamehe. Niko na mheshimiwa kutoka County Assembly ya Trans Nzoia.
Kwa majina naitwa Eric Wakula, mimi ni minority leader wa Trans Nzoia County. Majority leader wetu ni gani?
Hapana, wacha hiyo.
Kabila ya jamii tofauti.
Wewe ni minority leader. Hiyo ni muhimu.
Majority wale wanasema hao ni wachache. Nadhani hao ndio wengi kwa assembly.
Mheshimiwa, ulikuwa tuna introduce yourself.
Unatoka Saboti constituency wewe?
Mimi natoka Kiminini constituency.
Kiminini constituency. Okay.
Alafu tuna mama wa mwisho, Atiel, Fili Atiel. Simama. Mama huyu ni mwathiriwa. Mume wake wakati ya clashes ya kuhamisha watu kwa mashamba, mume wake, simama tu hapo, alitolewa macho, ni kipofu. Hata huyu mama kukuja naye hapa tujui mume wake anahudumiwa vipi. So pia tutawapea nafasi hata kama ni dakika moja wajieleze. So nilikuwa ninaomba chairman, kwa sababu tulikuwa tumejipanga tukaambiwa 30 minutes, ingawaje umetuambia 20. Nilikuwa ninataka the main counter petition ungetupa 15 minutes. Alafu historical explanation tutakuwa na dakika 5, alafu vitu vingine. So kwa ufupi bwana chairman, ninataka kuleta yule atapeana the main petition yenye tuko nayo, ambaye ni ndugu yangu elder anaitwa Barasa Nyukuri.
Chair, members of the National Dialogue Committee, my name is Barasa Nyukuri, a professional and one of the students on conflict resolution from the 90s. I've published books and articles in journals. So today, I'm appearing on behalf of the professionals and elders from 43 communities in Nzoia. We appreciate your mandate. Of course, whatever else that we say about your mandate, we have written in our document, so we don't have to read for you. Mainly, we have listened to what has been going on. I will focus on electoral justice and the issue of boundaries. That's our main agenda here. Other issues like the cost of living, my brother Wakili was what we'll talk about. Just to begin with now on electoral justice, I want to say that we still think there's something that is hidden, and that's why we support electoral justice to be through transparency and accountability. Article 86 of the Constitution talks about an election that is accurate, verifiable, free and fair. So we need also to justify that, and that is one of the mandates of IEBC under Article 884. So electoral justice is mandatory because the power of the ballot is the one that rules, and that is the will of the majority must reign. If it doesn't become the power of the ballot, then the opposite will reign, which we don't want. We don't want suspicion and mistrust. Year in every election, people are worried. Their mistake is just casting a vote. So we want electoral justice for all. Let the winner have it. The losers must also be satisfied that they lost, but freely and fairly. So for us, there's no shortcut to that. I will come to now the issue of boundaries. I will begin with the boundaries for constituencies and wards. If we look at Article 89 of the Constitution, Chair, that mandate is solely within the IEBC, Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, under Article 89. When we come to count boundaries, under Article 188, the Constitution, in its directive principle, says Parliament shall form an Independent Boundaries Commission. So far, we don't have a Boundaries Commission. The law that governs creation of boundaries is still pending in the Senate. The Senate Boundaries Bill 2023. Maybe you will help us by helping us fast track it. But otherwise, it's outside the mandate of this particular committee to discuss boundaries. Because what will be the work of the Independent Boundaries Commission for counties? And anything to
you say which means?
I want to repeat it by saying Article 188, and I'm sure we have our friends who can read it, and I'm sure you are capable, says Parliament shall create an Independent Boundaries Commission for purpose of counties, solely for that purpose. But here you have so many other agendas, so you are not solely for that purpose of boundaries. For me, you should down your tools on boundaries. That's my take.
You say we have got no jurisdiction.
Yes, you don't have jurisdiction.
When it comes to the issue of
in law, when you have no jurisdiction, you down your tools. So talk about other things, make recommendation for us to have the Count Boundaries Commission or Independent Boundaries Commission. That will be the help you can do. You cannot go ahead and even name because you have taken over the mandate of somebody else. Please don't do that.
And you said there's a bill.
Yes, the bill is there, the Senate Bill, yes. County Boundaries Bill 2023, that is now pending in the Senate. Help us to fast track it so that once it becomes law, they will create for us an Independent Boundaries Commission, and then they can now take that mandate for us to move on. We have a copy of that. If you want to look at it, we will share with you. So now I want to move. Chair, if you allow me. In terms of boundaries for constituencies and wards, of course you can make recommendations, and even the public as us can make recommendations. We will want to have 3 constituencies, for instance, created in Nzoia. That's in Cherangani, can be split into 2. Sabot can also be split into 2, and Kiminini into 2. And our brothers who are also looking for a new county, we can have Bungoma split into 4. We have Mula split into 2, is so big. Kandui can also be split into 2. Tongaren can also be split into 2, and Mount Elgon can also be split into 2. So that we have 4, we have 3 additional 4, 5. At the moment, we only have 5 sub-counties in Nzoia. I don't know how viable and sustainable is it to create now a county. Nzoia, as it is now, the population is around 940,000. That, for us, is still not viable. And if you are to look at the issue of domestic resource mobilization, Nzoia is one of the candidates for dissolution. So if you now want to divide it, we will now be dissolving it more, unless they're telling us they want to dissolve Nzoia. So we are not agreeing with the solution, or rather the the subdivision of Nzoia. Given our history, and my friends will talk about it, this petition documents the historical injustices in Nzoia from the colonial period, when the colonialists created settler communities. And the people who are original inhabitants of Nzoia were pushed in native reserves. So I think every community claims justice.
Who are they?
The Bukusu and the Luya. They were pushed to Kitosi, others went to Uganda, Luyembe, others were dispersed to Eldoret and other parts. Nzoia is the small Kenya. For us, it's trans. Nobody can claim ownership of Nzoia based on historical boundaries because the history is already distorted. Marakwet will claim, the Bukoti will claim, the Bukusu will claim, the Sapoti will claim. So the moment we go that direction, Chair, we are now raising ethnic animosities. When you say it's transit, Nzoia is transit. All of us are migrants in Nzoia. So nobody can claim ownership unless you have to show us where the reserve was. And given that, it means Nzoia is a cosmopolitan county. That's why we have 43 communities. And some communities are claiming they have been marginalized. Here, I want to repeat and go on record that that's not true. Some of those people who are claiming they're marginalized are the second largest community in Bungoma and Nzoia. In terms of governance, they have the senator, they have the women rep, they have the deputy governor, they have also CEC, they have chief officers, and they're in charge, and member of parliament. Out of the 25 wards, our brothers occupy 5 in total, and to demonstrate that they have not been fair to other communities.
Your brothers, no, your record.
Our brothers are the support.
Don't know who are the
They support, our sisters and brothers are the support, whom we have coexisted for some time. But historically, they are saying they want to be on their own. I don't think this is a forum to create an ethnic-based county. It will be very dangerous for the other 43 communities in Nzoia because we are all transit. Nzoia means transit. So you cannot claim ownership on a transit or a cosmopolitan county. It was settlement, we have come and settled. And history has shown that whenever there is such a claim of a constituency or a boundary review, clashes are always accompanying it. We can mention the 1991-92 clashes, where the common password was Hataki Madoadoa. That means other communities must be executed from, expelled from those. And that is demonstrated in this petition, Chair, through the list of land, the acres and farms that have been grabbed by some people within such a kind of community. So we have detailed for each of the wards the land that has been grabbed. And these thousands of acres. We will present and there's evidence and you can verify.
Which report is that?
Our own.
Okay.
Our own. We have based this petition on the Kiliku report on 1992, a Kiumi report on 1999. We have based it also on the studies that were done by Philip Waki on the judicial inquiry, and then the TRC, where I was also one of the researchers. I have also published on the impact of past and potential ethnic conflicts in Kenya, but specifically Western. My document is on the website. You just put in my name, Barasa Nyukuru, you will see. It's quoted all over the world. So this is based on research. It's not something which is, and I predicted that the clashes will come and they came. We don't want that ugly face again of clashes in Nzoia. It will disorganize us. Some people don't have a home, simply because their land, as we have come with some of those mamas, they don't have a home. Their land was taken away, cattle also taken away, all property destroyed, and even documents. On this petition, Chair, we have attached even court rulings. We have attached even certificates of allocation in terms of allotment and even title deeds. But those people have not been able to honor.
I think you are fine.
Yes.
Since you already actually.
I'm not.
It's okay. I'm
yes.
just to guide you.
Yes.
Your position is that we have control jurisdiction over the county.
Yes.
Boundaries.
That's our focus.
Don't dwell on that so much.
Yes.
Yes.
So we are saying that there must be historical justice or repatriation for that particular purpose. So the reasons why we are saying we don't want a new county, our population density and dynamics does not allow. 2, we have had historical ties. We need coexistence. We need cohesion among all our groups. The issue of marginalization and minorities does not arise as stipulated in Article 56 of the Constitution 100 and 260. Because how can the majority claim they are minorities? That is a ploy, and we need to deal with that issue.
Who are the majority in Trans Nzoia and Bungoma?
Majority in Trans Nzoia and Bungoma are the Kusus, followed by the support.
Okay.
Yes. I hope I'm clear on that, followed by the Teso, especially for Bungoma. Yeah. Then the marginalized group or minority group in Bungoma could be the Batura, in Trans Nzoia could be now the Okek, could be the El Moro, could be other migrant communities including the Kisi. But the other ones are not minorities. If you read our petition, Chair, we have been able to document even where they have benefited more in counted allocations. And when they now get those allocations, they go and only allocate and distribute their own communities. That is not the spirit of devolution under Article 174. It means they have gone against Article 27 on equality and freedom from discrimination. It's documented, facts and figures. Even the staff, we have also documented, it can be verified. We are not naming people because of the Data Protection Act. We will not name anybody. But that information is verified. Where we are saying there are 40 law enforcement agents from the county, like what we call the security, the number is there. ECD, we have over 200 out of 791 from one community, which is claiming they are marginalized. I think we need to read our history and learn lessons from that history, Chair, so that we don't repeat the same mistakes. Otherwise, the word drums are very high, and the social media is awash of all those sentiments of saying what had won. Thank you, Chair.
Have you reported those incidents?
Those incidents are already in the police, but the police are also sometimes part of the problem. They are part of the problem. They also take sides.
Yeah, because as a community, we want to really encourage peaceful coexistence.
We want peaceful coexistence.
Harmony.
We want harmony. We don't want any inch of Trans Nzoia, which is just around 2,499, to be annexed or be subdivided. It will not be economically viable as a county. We are doing very badly in terms of domestic resource mobilization. Chair, allow me just to invite Wakili Waswa to add value to what I've said.
Wakili Waswa, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I will take only 2 minutes. To begin with, Chair, I want to affirm that as people from Trans Nzoia, we are supporting whatever this team is doing as far as bringing peace and cohesion in our country is concerned. To be specific, Chair, I want to confirm that we support all the questions that were raised in the BBI. All those questions that were raised, they go beyond individual questions and address the issues of peace, and therefore we are in support of the same. Chair, I also want to say that the question that you are supposed to address before, rather addressed in this committee on party discipline, we want to confirm that we are 100% supporting the same. We cannot sit as a country or as professionals and support what some people call political party prostitution, whereby you use a political party as a bus, then once you get to parliament or wherever, then you want to begin hoping. We must have that discipline. If we won't have that discipline, then we will have no business having political parties. Let's just disband the political parties, then just go and vie individually with all political parties. But for us to sustain the same, if we're going to sustain political parties, then we will have to adhere to the party discipline. Another issue, Chair, I want to address the question of the cost of living. Kenyans are doing badly, are doing very, very badly. Things are too much. Taxes are too high. Taxes are so many. Taxes are so many in this country. Taxes left, right, center. You cannot milk a cow and not giving it food. You must be able to provide enough for the cow before you milk it. What we are seeing is the opposite. And Kenyans are being pushed to the wall.
The point is made.
And they will be bust.
Yes, yes.
The question now addressing and tying it to Trans Nzoia County, we are farmers. What we are saying is we are supporting the question of subsidized fertilizer. We support it. And as a county, even now, we are now harvesting. But now the question that Nzoians are asking, why are they harvesting maize at the same time maize is being imported? Should we just stop farming?
I understand they import it for livestock.
No, not at all. Not at all, Chair. Chair, don't mislead the Kenyans.
I use the word understand. I have evidence.
Yes. So, Chair, don't mislead the Kenyans. What we are saying is we must allow, if at all we are to empower Nzoia County, who are seriously and large-scale maize farmers, then we must support them fully, give them fertilizer the way we are doing, the government is doing, and we support the government by doing that. So as we support them by giving us fertilizer, subsidized fertilizer, then allow them to produce so that they can also enjoy the market, not give them one hand and take with the other.
Someone should give the governor a seat. Okay, proceed.
Then lastly, Chair, my colleague has enumerated everything in that petition. However, allow me just to address on one point because of time. This county of Nzoia is a cosmopolitan county. The moment we allow what some petitioners, our brothers and sisters from the South community, that they want to have their own county, then you're going to open up another box whereby each community now will be seeking.
Once there's no jurisdiction, everything else stops.
Thank you very much.
Don't move an inch.
Thank you very much. So I'm happy to hear that this committee has accepted that they don't have jurisdiction to what matters boundaries of the county.
Wakili.
And therefore,
Wakili.
Yes.
Don't put words in our mouth. and we don't expect you to speak on behalf of the committee. Make your presentation. I would encourage you to desist also from mentioning other communities. With due respect, everybody who has appeared before this committee has a right.
Yes, that's correct.
To have their say.
That's correct.
Just like you have your right, and we respect it. Also respect the rights of those others to say whatever they want to say before the committee. It is up to the committee to decide on, deliberate on the issues that come from all Kenyans.
We are guided, Chair. We are guided, Chair.
2 more minutes and then you wind up.
Yes, guided, Chair. And therefore, as you retire to go through this bulky document which you have documented, Chair, we will want you to look at several declarations. To be specific, the Mabanga Declaration. This declaration was signed by all the elders in Nzoia County and agreed in one voice that in the event of any misunderstanding or anything that might cause a division, they will sit down and deal with those issues as a community. We are yet to get there, and therefore what we are saying is the question of seeking for another county, I think, is premature, and you must allow the elders and the Mabanga Declaration to see the light of day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wakili, and Chair, we are begging you, we end it there.
Why can't you summarize? Allow the majority leader just a word.
Yes.
No, it's okay. They are killing professional.
Chairman, please.
Chairman. Can I guide now, Reverend?
Yes, sir.
Let me guide. Majority leader, one word.
Chairman.
Sorry.
Kila ambacho ningependa kusema ni kwamba tumekuwa na 5 displacements in Bungoma and Nzoia. And most of these displacements, ingawa mwenyekiti Mheshimiwa Kimani Ichung'wa anasema ya kwamba hatuwezi kutaja mtu, in the petition of our brother in the suburbs, the Luya community or the Bukus community have been extensively and adversely mentioned.
Mzee, nimeshauri tusitaje watu ama jamii, sababu hiyo sio madhumuni ya hiki kikao.
Madhumuni yetu ni kuleta uwiano na ni mazungumzo. Hamna mtu ako na vita na mwingine. Najua kuna uchochezi mwingi vile tumesikia, na tunataka tuulize watu wote Trans Nzoia na Kenya nzima. Hakuna mtu anakuja anasema jambo hapa iwe ni lazima lifanyike vile amesema. Ni maoni ameleta, na yale tumeuliza Wakenya walete ni maoni, lakini sio kusema ukija leo utuambie yako lazima tufanye yale umesema, ama mwingine akija aleta maoni yake. Na ndio tumesema tuheshimu tuheshimu haki ya kila mtu kusema na kusikizwa, lakini sio kusema sababu yule alisema lazima pia mimi nije niseme nikadusha yale aliyosema. Kwa hivyo mtulie na tuulize watu wote Trans Nzoia na Kenya wawe na uvumilivu na uwiano. Kongamano hili ni la mazungumzo, sio la vita, na tunataka liwe mahala ambapo tutaweza kuleta watu pamoja, tuweze kuzungumza pamoja na tusikizane. Na napenda vile wakili amesema, wazee wa Trans Nzoia washaona ya kuwa panaweza pakawa na mtafaruku kidogo baina ya jamii, na wanauliza tuje pamoja tuongee kama jamii. Na hayo ndio mambo tunataka tu encourage mzee. Kwa hivyo ndio nataka tusiwe na mabishano jamii hili jamii ile. Haina tusaidia kabisa.
Just 2 minutes takuwa nimemaliza. We have had 5 displacements. The first one ni wazungu walifukuza watu wetu kutoka Trans Nzoia na wakacreate kitu kinaitwa native reserve ambayo ni Bungoma. So we were moved from Trans Nzoia to Bungoma, where the reserve was created for us. The second displacement came when now the White Highlands, after 70 years, wazungu wameenda, matajiri wengine wanaingia. The laborers, who are mainly the Bukusus in Trans Nzoia, they were poor. They didn't buy land because mshahara wa shilingi 25 mtu angeweza kununua nini? So watu walionunua mashamba Trans Nzoia wakawa ni makabila kutoka nje through willing buyer, willing seller. Na ndipo unakuta makabila yote ya Kenya iko Trans Nzoia. There is nobody who can claim now ya kwamba hii Trans Nzoia ni yetu ama ni ya nani, kwa sababu originally it belongs to the Bukusu community. The third displacement, wakati ambapo watu wamefukuzwa wakakosa mahali pa kwenda, wakaingia maforest, wakaanza kulima huko. In 1986-87, when Yusuf Haji was the PC Rift Valley, akatoa order watu watoke katika misitu. Watu walipotoka pia wakakosa mahali pa kwenda. Baadaye in 1991-92 kukawa na tribal land clashes. Na hizi clashes ilikuja hivi kwa sababu one of the nominated members of parliament 1988 ambaye alisema ya kwamba jamii yao ambao sasa ni jamii ya Wasabauti ya kwamba hawana makao, hawana mahali pa kukaa, na wengine wengi wako Uganda. So baadaye schemes zikawa created in Trans Nzoia.
Hiyo record iko kwa hizo reports mbili, very well captured. So leave it at that. I want to give the leader of minority 1 minute, then we close. Please, just the leader of minority and we close. I am certain every other person there has something very burning they want to say. You can see others at the back gesturing.
Yes. Thank you, leader in Trans Nzoia County. And as you see, Trans Nzoia County is a small, unique county. From what they've just mentioned, Trans Nzoia County is like Nairobi, and we always call ourselves small Kenya. Why we are saying small Kenya? We've got all communities, the 43 plus other communities that have come from other outside the country. We've got the Sudanese, we've got the Ugandans, we've got the Rwandese. They are all residing in Trans Nzoia County. So we are happy. Our cohesion has made, if you come to the assembly, as we work as people or leaders of Trans Nzoia County, we don't want to mention tribes, but there are different communities that have been elected. From the beginning, if you look at the history, we've had mayors from different laws, if I can say, although you didn't say, we've got Kikuyus who've been Kisis. All people have been given opportunities to lead in Trans Nzoia County. Currently, shockingly, the government of Trans Nzoia is led by the governor, George Natembea, but it's a minority government. We are the minority. As we speak, the Trans Nzoia now, the people who are believing that we are the ones who are being affected, we've got only, the minority government has got only 11 members of the county assembly. The majority come from, shockingly, I can UDA. The majority come from UDA. UDA, not UDA. UDA. So the uniqueness of Trans Nzoia County, there is no single individual that can say we have been marginalized. And even previously, like in the past 5 years, the leader, the deputy speaker and the majority leader came from one community. Currently, as we speak, the governor comes from one community, the senator comes from another community, women rep,
The point is made.
Yeah.
And we know all those things. Yeah.
So the uniqueness of Trans Nzoia County, I want to request the committee, please let Trans Nzoia County, our 5 sub-counties remain. Because if you can imagine, if you reduce, we are only 5 sub-counties. If you reduce to two, then what will be the governor believe?
Thank you, leader of minority. And in closing, we'll end it there.
Chairman,
we shall end it there.
Talk about Article 56.
We shall end it there.
Mr. Chairman, look at
We shall end it there, and I will order you be removed from this room if you open your mouth again.
Chairman,
I wanted to conclude. We end it there.
And let me finish.
Just amend, then we can.
Yeah.
In 30 seconds, because you must also bear with us, we are time constrained.
Yes.
And we really want to thank you, because that will be my only comment.
Thank you.
We want to thank you for the very good presentations and encourage you to encourage, as Mzee said, and the gentleman who is next to the Mzee, the one who had a very eloquent presentation, continuous dialogue among us, the people of Trans Nzoia, so that you remain, as the leader of minority says, as one united county, knowing that Trans Nzoia is home to everybody. It's not home to any one particular community. It is home to the 43 Kenyan communities that live in Trans Nzoia. And that should be the spirit of this engagement. And I want to plead, because as you have rightly said, there's a lot of negative sentiments even on social media, to plead with the people of Trans Nzoia to be patient with each other and allow each other to have their say. Nothing said before this committee is what will be. It is simply Kenyans airing their views and giving their opinions in their perspective, and it should be allowed, just as you are allowed to air your perspective, others air their perspective. You never know, tomorrow maybe another group of another so perceived marginalized community. My own community is a minority in Trans Nzoia. And if they come here tomorrow and say, we listen to them, isn't it? So,
including mine.
Including the minority. And I've had the leader of minority say, everybody has had a chance to be a mayor, councillor, and MCA. So we encourage you, and Reverend, we would pray that you will lead together with the elders of the Mabanga Declaration in bringing the people of Trans Nzoia together, just like we are endeavoring through this dialogue committee to bring the people of Kenya together. And that should be the spirit.
30 seconds. So tungeomba chairman muturuhusu kupeana zile document umekuja nayo. Kuna main document ya counter petition ambayo ningetaka my brother Nyukuri aweze kuhand over, alafu peleka ndugu yangu, alafu kuna memo ambayo inatoka kwa 43 communities. Alafu tuna memo chairman kutoka kwa 43 counties, 43 communities ambao wamesign in support of that counter petition. Itaongozwa na ndugu yetu anaitwa John Gagunda ambaye ni mwakilishi wa Gema kutoka Trans Nzoia na mwakilishi kutoka Idaho. Waende wapeane. Kwenda peana kumezako.
As you make your closing remarks, mchungaji.
Alafu ya mwisho, memo ya mwisho
kuja pika.
Itapelekwa na
leta memo ya mwisho. We have the Council of Governors waiting and we are keeping them.